it covers like riots and strikes in some provinces. Political analyst from the Northwest University, Professor Andre Duvenacher, gives his views on why protests tend to increase ahead of the polls.
In the South African context, I have also seen it to be part of an elite strategy to occupy political positions, because politics is about the organization and mobilization of support. Parties are supposed to do this, and then they must channel this organization and mobilization towards election day in order to vote for a specific party.
Local government expert John Mutlogelwa says violent protests come at a high cost to the country.
These protests done in this manner, characterized by violence and violation of other people's rights, including learners at schools, including assets of certain individuals, including destruction of state assets, really causes instability to governance. And it shouldn't be tolerated. Every member or a group of society has got the right to protest, but there are to be peaceful protests respecting the right of others.
And energy providers in Ukraine are warning that there could be power shutdowns across the country after Russia carried out another massive drone and missile attack in which transport and energy infrastructure were damaged. The latest attacks happened on Ukraine's Day of Remembrance for those who died under Nazi occupation in the Second World War. President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country is enduring similar horrors today.
80 років тому мільйони українців боролися, аби нацизм.
80 years ago, millions of Ukrainians fought to make Nazism lose forever. But today, Ukrainians are again preventing the evil, which came back and wants to destroy us. An inhuman army is murdering, torturing, sweeping cities and villages off the face of the earth.
The top story at 3 o'clock, Western Cape Premier Alan Winde has thanked all those who have been assisting in the rescue and emergency response to the George collapsed building tragedy. For SAFM News,
and coming up in your sports, the Sawa Chipa United Sinotolo Kwaiba and Mamelodi Sundowns boss Rulani Mukwena named DStv Premiership Player and Coach of the Month respectively for April. Bulls gear up for massive Glasgow battle, and SA women's hockey team still in need of funds to prepare for the Olympic Games. More details at 3:30.
EFC is live this Thursday. Two grappling wizards will battle it out for the vacant welterweight title at EFC 113 as Gelson Souza and Zakir Banat fight it out for championship glory. Plus, Faiz Jacobs is out for revenge against the great Sylvester Chipumbu for #1 contendership. EFC 113 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we would buy 500 more. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
For the first time in 30 years, the ANC is set to lose its majority. Opposition parties have united as the multi-party charter for South Africa.
A strong democratic alliance with a proven track record
can anchor a new government that serves the people.
But a new government that works is only possible if you vote for it. Let's unite and rescue South Africa. Vote DA.
This political party advertisement was paid for by the political party concerned. The views expressed in this advertisement are those of the political party and not those of the SABC.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, welcome indeed to the National Pulse. My name is Ashraf Garda. We start as always with That's My Point. So, I have been thinking about this. What divides South Africans and what unites us? Now, apartheid divides us. Racism divides us. Seeing everything in black and white terms divides us. Inequality clearly divides us. The apartheid spatial divide that plays out between townships and suburbs divides us. The extremes of extreme wealth and extreme poverty divides us. The class differences divides us. The perpetual social injustices that prevails in our country divides us. This sense of privilege and no privilege divides us. And here's another one. The lack of empathy. The lack of one group of people understanding truly how the other part lives really does divide us, because we just don't get each other when we do that. Okay, now what unites us? The symbol of our flag, the South African national flag, absolutely unites us. The concept of democracy in our country unites us. The vote unites us. Our disgust at load shedding unites us. Our anger at mediocrity and poor service delivery unites us. Sporting success unites us. Global success in entertainment as well as in business unites us. Us being really angry at potholes unites us. Our fear and our opposition to violent crime unites us. Our general opposition to institutionalized racism unites us. And then I go back to a long, long time ago when I first heard this, the name of this race, and it united me, I think, and it said the Comrades Marathon. But finally, just going anywhere in the world, and when someone tells you, I am South African, well, that must unite us. I'm Ashraf Garda, and that's my point.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
And that list of what divides us and what unites us is in no way the definitive complete list. Of course, it's me challenging you to think about just that. What unites us? What divides us? How about you giving it a go? You tell me what unites us, what divides us. And in fact, you can WhatsApp right away in text or voice note form, or you can call in too as always, right? And you tell me what unites us. You can also post it on our social media platforms where you can watch us on streaming live too, SAFM on Facebook and certainly on the X platform using that hashtag, the National Pulse. Now, while you think about what unites us and what divides us, this is someone that you should certainly consider. The apartheid government was so afraid of Beyers Naudé that for 7 years it banned him from being in a room with more than one other person. But in 1994, he voted in the country's first democratic election and worked hard to help previously disenfranchised people to do the very same. On May the 29th, the Kagiso Trust's Remember Me initiative encourages South Africans to honor Naudé's memory by exercising the right he fought so hard for, in this case, the right to vote. Hashtag Remember Me.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, it's going to be a busy show. There's so much to talk about. In terms of that, the WhatsApp number, it's 0614 104 107, and then to call in 086 000 2032. We'll have another take on the DA advert issue. We're speaking to the Kathrada Foundation, and we'll also chat to the DA Federal Chairperson Helen Ziller. We'll also talk about, look at a 30-year review of democracy, that report delivered by the President today, political parties taking the IEC to court. There's also a fancy game that will help you to vote, right? Teach you how to vote, called We the Voters. And if you're using a debit or credit card and you're being asked now to swipe on the one way or to tap, well, be aware of the tapping scams that are prevailing. I'm sure that's got you interested. We're going to talk about all of that. So there's so much to talk about. However, let's start with our Constitution. Did you know, on May the 8th, 1996, so what does that give us? 28 years, right? South Africa took that giant step from apartheid to democracy. We voted in 94, but then adopting the Constitution in 1996 that guarantees equal rights for all and affirms the democratic values of South Africans, human dignity and freedom. Now, we thought we'll get different views on the impact of our Constitution. And first up, we chat to a representative from AZAPO, the Azanian People's Organization, and that's Jabu Rakwena, who's the national spokesperson. Jabu, good chatting to you. You're live on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners of SAFM.
Thank you
for the opportunity.
Thank you. Now, so here's the thought. 28 years into the adopting of our Constitution, and I talk to you and I ask you for a response, and you say what?
Look, Ashraf, it's been 28 years of neglect, 28 years of a mirage sold to black people. And we in AZAPO believe that the constitutional process, to start with, because we are talking about the final constitution, there was an interim constitution which was adopted prior to the elections in 1994.
Yeah.
And that even that constitution, the process that led to its adoption was such that it was not open for public participation. It was not open for our interactions. And to be blunt, white liberals outsmarted the ANC in the negotiations at CODESA. And they were able, despite their numbers, they were able to extract a number of issues that are a problem for us as AZAPO, particularly in relation to the land question. I mean, there was a constitutional guarantee that they were able to extract from their negotiations to the effect that that clause will remain sacrosanct and will not be touched. And you look at now, a number of political parties that are participating in the elections are promising people that they will create employment, they will create jobs. The question is, with what means of productions that you don't own, how are you going to create those millions of jobs and so on? Because you don't own the means of productions. You are dependent on the benevolence of the white capital and the white business to say, yes, we will allow those opportunities to be created. So we feel that this constitution needs to be overhauled, and it needs, the initial position of AZAPO before the negotiations in 1994 was that there should be a constituent assembly that would sit, and everybody should be able to have a say in terms of how and what issues should be part of that constitution. We pride ourselves as having the best constitution in the world, but it does not talk to the realities on the ground.
All right, so you're saying it's far from the best constitution in the world. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, no constitution is perfect. I think that goes across the world, right? But notwithstanding the point you made earlier on, do you not concede that by and large it's got far more right than wrong in the crafting and the adoption of that constitution, and therefore there is a lot to celebrate and maybe one or two things to be critical of?
Look, the Bill of Rights is a given. The Bill of Rights, you cannot talk about democracy without talking about the Bill of Rights. And from that perspective, you're correct in saying that it because remember we come from a history that denigrated the rights of black people, and the Bill of Rights obviously gave us that. But I don't think we were. There's a concept that liberation movements, particularly the ANC, was fighting apartheid. We believe as AZAPO that we're fighting more than apartheid. We're fighting for our dignity. We're fighting for our right to exist and the right to determine our future. We're also fighting for an economic freedom. And those things are not there in this constitution. The right to dignity is still denied in the constitution. I mean, if you look at the Bill of Rights, it doesn't go even further, because rights that are supposed to be talking to the realities on the ground. I'll give you a practical example. You talk about the right to employment, but yet it says given the means that are there. You talk about the right to housing. The kind of housing that you are given is even worse than the houses that were given by the former apartheid government.
So it's not defined. So it talks about rights but not defined. Okay, here's the thing.
It does define them, but it does not go further in terms of enforcing those rights.
Okay, now you made the issue about your very first point about land and land rights, and I hear you on that one. We can have a 1 hour conversation about that. But in terms of where we stand right now, therefore, right, what can be done to deliver a constitution that is closest to not just your ideals or Azapo's ideals, but the ideals of what is best for the vast majority of people in our country? What can be done?
The first thing that we need to do is we should not ponder to the interest of the West. We should not. We should be able to look at our reality and be able to say what would best serve our reality. And our reality is over 30 million of black people are dependent on the state for their survival, either through a social grant or through the distress relief, or whatever the case may be. The unemployment rate is at an alarming pace. The crime rate is at an alarming pace, and all those challenges that we are facing as a country, we need to be able to say what would best serve us in terms of addressing those challenges. And the best way to deal with those challenges is to make sure that you level the playing fields. The ownership of the means of production are leveled in such a manner that blacks can participate meaningfully. Because, I mean, if you promise black people jobs, you're not giving them meaningful participation in who is supposed to give those jobs. Why are those jobs not being given by black people? Because black people must be in a position to give jobs to their own people and be able to say, we own the means of production and we are able to dictate what kind of economy this country is.
So as we wrap up, and I hear the points that you've made and some things you've conceded on the Bill of Rights, right? The Constitution also has played a vital role in underpinning democracy, and that has stood for 3 decades now, right?
Yes, but democracy should not be a pie in the sky. Democracy should also be the reality that we live, and democracy should be in a position to be able to say to me, I can access a university education because I've got the means to do that. Democracy should also be able to say to me, I can access a political power because I've got the means to do that. Remember, political campaigning right now, you can ask all the parties, they'll tell you it's a very expensive process. And it's expensive because we don't have the means to fund it.
All right, lastly, within Azapo's powers, considering any changes at constitutional level needs a 2/3 majority, what are your plans to steer the driving of key changes in the constitution? And you've got like 30 seconds to answer that.
Yes. Look, the first, if you look at our manifesto, the first issue that we would like to do in terms of our constitution is to do away with the provinces. In other words, not in their physical stature, but in the element of governance, of provincial governance and the legislative capacity that they have. You do away with all those, we are able to retain at least 250 billion rands into the state coffers that we can use to create employment.
Okay. Let's leave it at that. Thank you very much. And certainly we'll get further thoughts on that issue around 28 years of our constitution and what that really means. So thank you for your time. And we certainly have others calling in on that issue. But for now, Jabu Rakwena, the national spokesperson of Azapo, thank you for your time. In Tlantla, I see your comments. We'll try and pick up your thoughts as soon as we can. In fact, right after this.
Hear that? That's the sound of deliciousness in your kitchen after watching Ready Steady Cook. You don't season the same no more. The way you chop, slay. You do it with so much flair, because you've channeled your Salt Bay. Uyashisa. Turn up the heat. Off the bone with the meat. You're in your kitchen prime. Always dishing on time. Need I serve more? Catch Ready Steady Cook weekdays at 7 p.m. on S3 and channel your inner 5-star chef. Channel a better you with S3.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
Right, the Miss South Africa 2024 entries are now officially open. And if you are ready to answer that call and become Miss South Africa 2024, well, your time is now. So step into your power and embrace your future. The entries close at 6 p.m. on 8th of May, which is today. Okay, entries close today. The moment the show ends, the national pulse, well, then your pulses will be racing because you can apply and enter, right? Go to missa.co.za, missa.coza, or download the Miss South Africa app and you can enter now. 6 p.m., don't forget.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
I found a fascinating comment made by South Africa's former President Thabo Mbeki. He is of the view that the African Union is incapable of dealing with the challenges faced by the African continent. He also asserts that forging African-led solutions for peace and security is the only way that can help this continent in its quest to deal with numerous challenges. He was speaking at a recent peace and security conference on the continent. I think he also made the point that the AU is rather weak. That's his words, not mine. Let's get some comment on that with Professor Chris Izaka, who's the Professor of African Politics and International Relations in the Department of Political Sciences at the University of Pretoria. Prof, appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ashraf, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Does that surprise you, comments from former President Thabo Mbeki about the AU being effectively weak and incapable of dealing with the challenges faced by the African continent?
Well, it doesn't surprise me because he should know. He was part of the formation of the AU and, has been involved in its operations one way or another. So he does have a point. However, where I may differ with him slightly is the fact that he's looking at the AU as an institution and forgetting that the AU is made up of member states, right? And the AU as an organization of states is only as strong as the states themselves. Okay, so the question of how strong are these states and what they do or do not do for their citizens is what actually then makes the AU as a supranational body weak.
Well, so what then does the AU do for the citizens of the people of the African continent?
Well, the AU is a supranational body that's supposed to be able to guarantee and ensure good governance in the continent, enable its member states to deliver on their promises to their people. So for the AU to be significant, of course, it is an overarching body that is able to bring leaders together and address common challenges that afflict the continent. But remember, these challenges themselves emanate from states. So for you to have an effective supranational body like the AU that will help to address common challenges that afflict member states themselves ought to come to the party, in terms of doing what they are supposed to do in the first instance as states. So what are the core causes of conflict within states? It's usually questions around the national question, unequal citizenship challenges that emanate from the national question, as well as poor governance. And of course, poor governance is what the result in many of these conflicts. So if states themselves understand what their responsibilities are to their citizens and deliver on those, there will be less conflicts for the AU to manage. The AU will then become a supranational body that helps to develop common templates or policies towards other regions of the world. For example, we will talk about Africa-US policy, Africa-China policy, Africa-Russia policy. It will then work that way. And this is how the EU, for instance, which the AU is modeled after, works. The EU can only be strong. It's only strong because its constituent members, the 27 European countries that constitute the EU, each of them are strong in terms of delivering to their citizens. When they make laws at that supranational level of the EU, the laws are then passed back to states, and the states, because they already understand the imperative of acting together as a collective, they actually pass them and implement them at state levels. In Africa, the reverse is the case. We expect the AU to be strong when the states themselves are supposed to be what make the AU to be strong.
I think that's a very important point. Now, and picking up on that, the point that, again, Thabo Mbeki, former President Thabo Mbeki, said was that, he used the word incapable, but he also said that we need to assert an African-led solutions for peace and security. So what's the difference between an AU that's incapable and still having an African-led solutions for peace and security, considering the point you made that our states that make up the AU themselves are weak and compromised in so many ways?
Yeah, so that African-led solution must so the AU can make that, right? Can make that policy. That's why you talk about African solutions to African problems. They have put an Agenda 2063. It's now left for states to actually give life to those policies or vision that the AU has articulated at a supranational level for the continent. The states must then come down and begin to give meaning to it. But the problem of state formation itself, poor governance, parasitic leadership, is what actually then cripples those states and prevent them from actualizing those visions. And we somehow expect that a supranational entity is supposed to solve those problems for us. It's just not going to happen. So the states themselves are supposed to be able to, if they understand why the states exist and have appropriate political systems and governance systems to actualize that vision of a proper state, formed by the people, you will now find that in the long term, we will begin to respect the policies and visions that have been articulated at the top, and everybody would come to the party and do their bit. So African-led solutions, African solutions to African problems must start at the individual level of states by through good governance, and then it will just reflect, at that supranational level where everyone understand what their responsibility is supposed to be. So we should pay a lot of attention to what happens within African states and see whether we cannot rethink and reform and repurpose our state systems and the governance systems that are needed.
Okay, here's the last thing in 30 seconds. Considering the pronouncements of Africa, the AU being weak, coming from Thabo Mbeki of all people, how much currency, how much clout will that carry? Meaning, would people at the AU and the countries listen to him, or would it simply be a pronouncement that will fall on deaf ears? You got 30 seconds.
Ideally, it should be listened to, but because our leaders have a penchant for not listening to themselves, where their own personal interests are concerned, they will likely not listen to him. They will even ask questions around what he did himself to make South Africa better when he was president of the country. So that's a challenge. But it's always good to listen to elders because they talk with insight.
Well, he may well start with saying I'm an African, but I got that. Prof. Chris Isike, thank you for your time. The Professor of African Politics and International Relations in the Department of Political Sciences at the University of Pretoria. Thank you for your time. We've had a load of people wanting to comment on that's my point, which is what unites us as South Africans and what divides us. And I certainly want to know what's your point. As soon as we get a chance, we will take it. Let me tell you as well, coming up, 2 takes on the DA flag issue. Helen Ziller, we'll talk to her, and we'll also chat to Nishan Balton from the Kathrada Foundation. Do not miss that, coming up pretty shortly. Now, let's get the news headlines. It's 3:30 with Madupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, the African Congress for Transformation has made Section 19 of the Constitution the core of its argument before the Constitutional Court. Western Cape Premier Ellen Winde has thanked all those who've been assisting in the rescue and emergency response to the George collapsed building tragedy, and Hong Kong's appeals court has approved the formal banning of a protest song called Glory to Hong Kong that was previously used as a rallying call by pro-democracy campaigners. Details of these and other stories at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Sandton is slow moving towards Marlborough Drive. The N3 southbound in Spruitview has a crash just before Leondale Road exit, and the N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash after New Road exit. All lanes are open. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a crash after Umgeni Road. The N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle after Spaghetti Junction reported, and the N2 northbound has a crash before the M41 Gateway exit. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Milner Road. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and Brighton Road in Kraaifontein is slow moving at the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, let's talk sport. First up, football.
Alrighty, we're starting all things with football. A very good afternoon to you. Well, Chipa United Sinoxolo Kwaiba and Mamelodi Sundowns coach Rulani Mokoena have been named the DStv Premiership coach and player of April, respectively. Kwaiba, who only joined the Chile Boys at the start of the 2023-24 season, was a standout performer as he scored 4 goals in 4 matches in succession to help his side move from danger at the bottom of the table. And Mokoena was recognized for guiding the Brazilians to 4 unbeaten games consisting of 3 wins in April. Elsewhere, Paris Saint-Germain coach Luis Enrique is still proud of his side despite being eliminated from the Champions League semi-finals by Dortmund. PSG missed a golden opportunity to reach their second Champions League final, but it was not all doom and gloom at the French club after a season of transition with a new coach. PSG have now lost all 6 legs of their 3 two-legged Champions League semi-finals after double defeats against AC Milan in 1995 and Manchester City in 2021.
I think the intensity of the match, it was great for both teams. Too much pressure, you can feel that during the match, but I'm happy with the performance of my players, all of them, with the team. I think that match could be a proof for us in earning experience and trying to improve, because now is the moment to congratulations to them, because they are in the final and we need to recover from that.
All right, moving on to rugby news. Vodacom Bulls co-captain Ruan Norkia says that they are expecting a massive battle from Glasgow Warriors when they meet at Loftus Versfeld in the United Rugby Championship this Saturday. With 3 rounds of the regular season remaining, the Bulls are in 4th place on the overall log with 51 points behind log leaders Glasgow and Leinster in 2nd. The top 8 teams will qualify for the playoffs, with the top 4 crucially featuring at home in the quarterfinals. Then in cricket, Bangladesh has recalled all-rounder Shakib Al Hassan and pace bowler Musta Rahman for the final 2 T20 internationals of the 5-match series against Zimbabwe. Former captain Shakib has not played a T20 since July 2023 and was this year elected as a member of parliament for Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's ruling party, while spinner Musta was rested for the first 3 matches after returning from the Indian Premier League, where he was the season's joint highest wicket taker for the Chennai Super Kings. Ending things off with women in sports, the SA women's hockey team are still in need of funds to help prepare for the Olympic Games. Now, the team has qualified for their 6th appearance at the Olympic Games, but for them to compete at their best, they need to have adequate preparations, playing against some of the best in the world to be ready for the Games. Now, currently the team is short 600,000 rands, and so I'm employing you, our listener, to donate whatever amount to contribute to helping our SA women's hockey team to be ready for the Olympic Games. And here's team manager Taryn Fourie further explaining how the donations will help.
The necessity of securing funds for the South African women's hockey team's preparation period ahead of the Olympics cannot be overstated, especially given the importance of our plans to travel to Europe to compete against formidable teams such as Belgium, the Netherlands and France. These matches present invaluable opportunities for our athletes to challenge themselves against elite competition, acclimatise to the diverse playing conditions of the European setting, and glean strategic insights from encountering teams with distinctive playing styles. Furthermore, strong performances against these high-caliber opponents can profoundly bolster our team's self-assurance and team spirit. affirming their capabilities on the global stage. Ultimately, these funds are not merely for covering competition expenses, but are essential for ensuring our team's readiness and competitiveness heading into the forthcoming Olympics. The team aims to not just participate at the Olympic Games, but to compete.
So I'm sure we'd really love to see an SA women's hockey team that is competing very hard at the Olympics. And if you want to donate, you can just head on to the Pro Touch Africa's Fund Your Passion platform. I'll also post this link on my social media so that you can donate whatever amount, so that when the Olympics come, at least as you watch the SA women's hockey team doing well, you'll know that somehow you have contributed to them preparing themselves for the Olympics.
So they're crowdfunding.
Right?
So they don't have a sponsor. And what is the controlling body? SASCOC and
So basically, SASCOC will cover the funds for them to get to the Olympics. But in terms of preparing and everything, remember, as she did say, as Taryn said earlier on, it's not only about them competing with these teams, but also the traveling, the food, just making sure that the team is ready.
But I mean, here's the thing. There must be a corporate sponsor in the same way that I think the SPA got involved with the netball team. I've got it right, and just what they did for the country, right? There must be a sponsor who can get on board now and allow our excellence, because that's what they are, to represent us on the biggest stage of them all.
Absolutely.
They have to do that.
They need a sponsor. So if someone out there is listening and is able to just say, listen, I am going to sponsor the SA women's hockey team, that will definitely go a long way.
Well, here's a corporate connection.
With that said, it's a wrap from my side. More on other sports in the next hour. For SAFM Sport, I'm Dumin Kapele.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. Join us for the 1 hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 10th of May 2024 at the SABC Auditorium in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. The University of Pretoria will take on the University of Witwatersrand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. If you want to attend the debate, you can email info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, we've been asking the question, what is it that divides us, and very importantly, what is it that unites us? And you give me your thoughts. Lots of people want to talk about it. As soon as I get a chance, we'll take further calls and comments and WhatsApp voice notes. But let's get to Intlantla in Pietermaritzburg. Hi, Intlantla, you're live on the National Pulse. Go ahead, hi.
Hi, Ashraf, are you?
Yeah, good indeed. Right, okay. What divides, what unites?
Yeah, mainly the Constitution divides us by promoting racialism, which is the so-called Rainbow Nation notion, also by affording the special minority rights with neglecting the majority rights. And also, if you remember on that one, Sobunga once said, there shall be no minority and there shall be no majority, but one people in a new country, which is not happening now. We've got minorities and majorities. And then we also have the neglect of the land and economic justice for the majority in favor of the minority rights again, because we're making sure that the minorities, their property rights are actually afforded whilst the majority doesn't have those rights.
Okay, and you say all that serves to divide, yeah?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right, got that.
That's definitely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's one opinion. Right. What is it that unites us? And you can comment, you can call in, but you can also WhatsApp in text or voice note form, and you can also tweet it out or post it on our Facebook live page using the hashtag The National Pulse, because that's really what it is that we are trying to emphasize all the time, trying to get a good sense of the feel of the pulse of the nation. Right. Well, the pulse of the nation, certainly thinking along the side of an advert, the Democratic Party advert, Democratic Alliance advert, in fact, that's been talked about all of yesterday and maybe from the previous night as well. So we will chat to the Kathrada Foundation a little bit later on about it, but much has been said about it. But we thought we'll get a further response on this issue from the DA perspective. We have with us the DA's federal chairperson, Helen Zille. Appreciate your time and thanks for joining us. You're live on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. It's good to be with you.
Much appreciated. Let's start with this firstly. How much value do you attach to our national symbols, in particular the flag?
Oh, a great deal, a very great deal. A lot of people put an enormous amount of effort to reach the point of democracy, and it's tragic to see our democratic institutions and other institutions being burnt by the ANC, and that they will be burnt to the ground if there's a coalition between the ANC, EFF and MK. That is the point. So we attach an enormous amount of value, hence the shock value of our ad.
But the actual value on the symbols. So, I say flag. We could talk about the national anthem. We can talk about the union buildings. I can go through a whole range of different ones, right? But to the literal flag, how much value do you attach to that?
Enormous amounts. That's why we were very shocked when ANC protesters repeatedly burnt the actual flag and there wasn't a peep about it. When other parties call for removing DSTEM from the national anthem, and we reject that because we believe these symbols are very important. So, when we just reject the hypocrisy that when we burn a piece of paper symbolizing the United South Africa, which is what the ANC is burning, there's all this outcry when no one said a word about the ANC burning the actual flag.
So are you surprised at the outcry? Because you've also said, and I've read your piece today, you say controversy helps drive our message. So I would think that that's what you wanted.
Well, we absolutely expected this controversy because there are professional outrage seekers and outrage manufacturers out there, and especially the ANC are very good at this, very versed at this, and so we expected every bit of it.
But in expecting it, right, I think maybe just ignore the ANC for the moment because they're a political party jockeying for an election, and ditto for every other party, right? There's also been there's been a large public outcry, and I'm not suggesting social media represents the entire nation, but there's been a lot. There's been a lot, almost saying the same things. Like we hear what the DA is saying, but why would they want to burn our flag? It's our flag. Don't do that.
Well, first of all, if Twitter was the voters' roll, the EFF would have been in power long ago. So, I discount that. Secondly, this message would never have got across as powerfully had we not done it in this solar plexus punch way. We did it in this way precisely to get the point across. We had 30 seconds to get the point across about how critical this vote is going to be. Do we want to burn our democracy to the ground, or do we want to help build it? Now, make that point in 30 seconds in a way that is memorable, in a way that gets people talking. That was the objective.
Do you think you've succeeded?
Yes, absolutely. We've succeeded. Actually beyond even my expectations. The DA's job is to ensure that we defend South Africa and all its symbols. And we've been doing that with absolute commitment since the dawn of democracy 30 years ago. And we've always been the first to predict the dreadful outcome of ANC policies and actions. And we've also always been criticized. There's always been an outcry every time we predict something that other people feel makes them uncomfortable, the inconvenient truth. And there was an outcry when we opposed cadre deployment in the late 1990s. There was an outcry when we opposed and exposed the consequences of BEE. There was an outcry when we started analyzing state capture, at least a decade before any analysts did. There was an outcry when we said stop Zuma. We're used to this. When we tell the truth and when we predict what is going to happen that makes people feel uncomfortable and they wish it wouldn't happen, then they turn on us. And 10 years later, when the analysts discover it was true, they present it as a new insight. So we're completely used to this, and it's our job to wake people up and to tell them how critical this vote is going to be.
But ultimately, in terms of this, what you call manufactured outrage, ultimately you want to translate the manufactured outrage into votes for the DA. Now, how's that going to happen?
Well, it's very simple. I mean, politics 101 is to create the binary and make people take a side. And it's absolutely clear that anybody who wants to defend South Africa needs to make a very clear choice. And the stakes are huge. They are far too high for anyone to stay home. And you need to come out on election day and do the thing that would be right in 10 years from now, when we'll either sit with a pile of ashes or a country that is growing more prosperous and more inclusive. That's the choice.
In terms of, I want to go back to the actual advert, right? In terms of the outrage, I mean, you did say that you expected controversy, you expected a response, but did you expect the response of the type that you are getting in some places, and I understand numbers, you can debate it all day long, that has now called upon the position of the DA as being, you see, this is this for whites party, this is this racist party, this is the party that will willingly burn the flag to prove a point to justify their own interest. Because I'm asking that question because there's a line between convincing people to vote for your party, but on the other hand, convincing them unintentionally so to turn away from the party.
Not at all. People who are going to be outraged by our message were never going to vote for us in the first place. So that is the critical issue. We're after all the opposition voters that we can get, obviously, because we feel that a very strong DA is the only way we're going to save South Africa. I mean, we're the only party that is honest enough, strong enough, experienced enough to lead South Africa back, not from the brink, but we've already fallen over the edge. And we have to pull the country back, and people have to actually get that in stark terms. It's got nothing to do with being white. I mean, the catastrophe has hit mostly poor people, and they have to understand that. That is why jobless rates are so extreme. That is why life is getting more expensive and unaffordable. That's why there's no electricity. Rich people can put solar panels on the roof of their houses. Poor people rely on Eskom. It's precisely the poor people that we're standing up for.
So your point, if I understand you, you're saying that the image of the flag burning is the image of those in power who, by their very actions, are effectively burning the flag, which is a symbol of the entire country. I mean, that's your message, right?
Yes, absolutely. They're burning the dream that we had in 1994. Okay. The ANC is destroying it and has been doing so systematically for 30 years.
Now,
and the ANC, EFF and MK will destroy it entirely. And we don't burn the actual flag.
Okay,
as one person put it.
Yes, I mean, I had that. Look, I made the point.
If you look closely, it's a piece of paper, not a clinic, not a municipal building, not a train, and all the things the ANC burns.
Okay, I made the point as well on my own commentary yesterday that you can be anti the flag burning, which I am, just so you know, but I can still consider the fact that there's so much else that's wrong in the country, and we must highlight that. And I think that means you can actually do both. You can be against the flag burning. You can also be against many things that have undermined the country. Now, having said that, right, the Kathrada Foundation, they've said something like we are dismayed by the burning of the flag, and it represents a symbol of hope. So here's the last thing to you. I mean, could you have done this any differently, but still achieve the same ends?
Well, the Kathrada Foundation makes exactly the same point. They should be dismayed. And indeed, our flag is a symbol of hope. And they should wake up to the fact that the ANC has been systematically destroying it. But they make my point exactly.
But their dismay is the DA using the flag.
Excuse me. I mean, this is the first time they've ever expressed that kind of dismay. Where were they when Ace Magashule's supporters in the ANC were burning flags all over Mangaung? I didn't hear a word from them. And those were real flags. We're going
to talk to them in a moment. You should probably listen in. Just the last thing in 30 seconds. Is there anything now, with hindsight, that you'd wish to revisit and apologize over regarding the advert and the outcry?
Absolutely not. We're not apologizing for telling South Africans what is going to happen to them. In 10 years' time, those who take our message seriously will be very grateful for the fact that we did ring this bell and ring it with such urgency in 30 seconds shortly before a critical election.
Okay, and
South Africa should thank us for ringing this alarm bell, which they need to hear loud and clear.
And that's where we'll leave it. Let's South Africans then decide May 29 and beyond that. Helen Zille, appreciate your time. Thanks for that opinion. Now, we'll certainly get another. Of course, Helen Zille is the DA Federal Chairperson. We'll get the opinion of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation in a moment.
The University Registrar and Secretary to Convocation, Dr. Joel Baloy, cordially invites all members of the University of Venda Convocation to attend the AGM on Saturday, 11 May 2024 in Polokwane, Merupa Hotel at 10:30. The AGM will consider the Vice-Chancellor State of Campus Report, the President of Convocation Report, and amendments to the Constitution of the Convocation. To RSVP and confirm attendance, please visit www.univen.ac.za/announcements or contact Mr. Mashuda Ramarebo on 060-906-1902.
The final stretch comes with high emotions and pressure keeps mounting. RB Leipzig are gunning for maximum points on home soil, but their visitors from Bremen believe in the power of 3 points. They want victory for themselves. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch RB Leipzig versus Werder Bremen on Saturday, 11 May at 3 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Right, the Road Accident Fund will be announcing winners of the Road Safety School competition and youth projects to be supported by the fund. So that in August 2023, in fact, the RAF launched a comprehensive road safety program for learners and youth. You may remember that. Now, this program involved educating learners in primary schools, special schools, high schools about road safety through talks, industrial theatres, performances, and road safety simulations. That's edutainment, right? So the event now will come up this week, in fact, Friday, the 10th of May in Durban. If you need to know more, call the RAF on 087 820 and then 4 ones, okay? So 087 820 1111. You got that on the website, RAF.COSA.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, that's the voice and the thoughts of Helen Ziller. Of course, we'll have that up as a podcast as well. They're very clear. The DA is certainly standing by what they believe they've done. Your comments are, as always, welcome. You know that. There certainly is comment from the Kathrada Foundation. Nishan Balton is the executive director of the Kathrada Foundation. Nishan, I appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon and greetings to your listeners.
Greetings. Now, of course, you saw fit to issue a statement late yesterday. And maybe tell us some of the key points of that statement.
Well, I think our essential point is that in an election campaign in 2024, there is no place for burning of a flag, whether real or imaginary in terms of being AI generated. In an election campaign. And we say that not because we want people to be flag-bearing patriots. However, if that is good, we also acknowledge that it's not illegal to burn the flag. But I think we place emphasis on what is the symbol of this flag, and we see it as a symbol of hope for a country that is still trying to transcend so many divisions. This advert of the DA belittles the unity, peace, and diversity that flag represents, and it does so for the most crass of reasons, which is to instill fear into people about a possible outcome of an election that, in its view, would basically burn the country to the ground. And we think that is just irresponsible at this point in time.
But I mean, seriously, do you take the fear part seriously? I don't. I'm just trying to think about whether that really impacts you to say if you don't vote for the DA, this is what's going to happen.
Well, you might not be a DA supporter, but what it does for supporters, it corrals people into a lager. It works on the basis of fears. And this is not a new approach to elections. It was tried by the DA in the past with the fight back. It's been tried in other parts of the world, where at the close of an election, you either appeal to the broadest base of principles and unity for people and want them to understand your political offering, or you appeal to their fears. And that's really what that does in the end. It's fear of a possible coalition that might burn the country to the ground.
Yeah, I got that. Now, of course, she hasn't apologized. I spoke to her earlier on, and you probably will hear the podcast as well just now. But they were also very clear that the messaging for them, two things. One is the controversy around the message helps drive our message. I'm quoting Helen Zille on that issue. But the other point is that they agree with you that the flag is so important. The flag effectively is sacrosanct, and that is why what they see at this point in time by so many things going wrong in the country as a challenge to the flag and what the flag stands for. That is why they say the advert makes sense to them. Now, do they not have a point?
I mean, you can argue that they have a point, but if you take just the huge degree of displeasure and perhaps outrage around this, and not necessarily from people who approach it purely from a party political point of view, but that this is a desecration of a national symbol, and I want to repeat, is fear mongering. If I take the words of Janita Hunter, it's fear mongering at its best and swart kafar at its worst. Now, you can spin that around to say that, to make the argument that they have made. But I think they do need to listen to those who do have a problem with this and who find it objectionable.
Now, listening to many other political parties in the run-up to this election, I'm looking at those that have a very clear view against foreigners and, sending them home and pulling the plug out of the oxygen tanks and whatever you, right? People and parties say different things. The point is, and the point that Helen Zille brought up to you, specifically to the Kathrada Foundation, is where were you when the ANC members burned ANC flags in opposition to their own service delivery problems?
I think we draw a distinction between an officially released advert of a political party and what people who might be members of the ANC or any other party does. I think there's a huge distinction between the two. The one is planned, the other might not be. The one is carefully thought out and people paid to in fact produce it, and the other one might well be a spontaneous thing. So there can't be equivalence between the two.
How then do you think, in terms of the rules of an engagement around an election, that you would advise, parties ultimately, they want your vote. Rishan, they want your vote, they want my vote, they want the vote, right? And they will try and do whatever they can to convince us to vote for them. But in terms of the rules of engagement, how far do they go? What advice can you give and what can you suggest to them?
Well, when we had Kathrada's remembrance event in March, we had the DA, ANC, IFP, and all of them there. All of them firstly agreed that they needed to be seen to be cooperating in public, that they needed to be putting forward their value proposition to people and to engage them around it. And the last thing that they needed to do was to play on the fears of people and deepen the disunity that elections normally do bring about. So I think for me, when I look at the advert, it says to me, don't trust these others. They burn the country to the ground. Mm-hmm. I don't have a clue what it is that the DA will do in the end to prevent that, and what exactly its offering will be, other than to say don't trust the others because they will turn it.
Okay, and in 30 seconds as we wrap up here, are you generally on side that the majority of the political parties are playing it fair in terms of what they say, how they say, yet being critical of the other parties, understandably so, in their quest to win our votes?
I struggle to answer that. Because for many of them, I don't know what their core offerings are, and the election messages appear to be all over. Lastly, no party has come to engage me directly in my home or in my street in terms of what they stand for.
Okay, and that's where we will leave it. Maybe that chance will still come with 3 weeks to go to the election. Nishan Bolton, thanks for your time. The Executive Director at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. There are two takes, the Kathrada Foundations and Helen Zille as well early on. And I know many people wish to comment about it. We will do that as soon as we can. But right now, first things first, let's get the news at 4 with Madupi.
Thank you very very much, Ashraf. The top stories this hour: the ACT presents its Concord arguments, and the Premier thankful for the George building collapse response. Very good afternoon. Starting with election news, the African Congress for Transformation has made Section 19 of the Constitution the core of its argument before the Constitutional Court. The section deals with the political rights of parties and individuals and prescribes that every adult citizen has the right to vote in elections. The party is one of three seeking urgent relief of the Apex Court after they failed to comply with the March 8th deadline to submit their candidate lists. The ACT alleges that it was unable to comply due to technical glitches with the IEC's online portal. Advocate Gregory represents ACT in the matter.
The Section 19 right that lies at the heart of the factual dispute is whether or not the right of my clients, and at the very least 121,000 supporters, will be denied an opportunity to vote for the party that they want to, and then the exclusion of 470 candidates of my clients who want to stand for my client on the ballot list, their exclusion. And ultimately whether the frustration of either of those rights, which we submit is presently the status quo, has the effect of rendering the elections unfair and unfair.
The MK party has called for calm among its party members and supporters. The party has accused its expelled founder, Jabulani Khumalo, of trying to sabotage it by writing to the IEC requesting that former President Jacob Zuma be urgently removed as the face and leader of the party. In the letter dated the 5th of May, Khumalo says Zuma occupies both positions through a fraudulent and illegal manner. Thereafter, the IEC released a statement confirming that they received a letter from Khumalo, further stating that Zuma is the registered leader of the MK party and reiterated that it will not involve itself in the internal affairs of political parties. The MK party has also accused Khumalo of having close relationships with some IEC officials. Western Cape Premier Alan Winde has thanked all those who've been assisting in the rescue and emergency response to the George collapse building tragedy. Besides the first responders, community members, businesses, churches and individuals have stepped up to assist. They're providing food, water and even counseling to the rescue workers and the family members of those affected. Winde says he's grateful for everything that they've done. More than 200 emergency services staff are on this scene. At least 7 people died in the incident. There are hopes that 39 people believed to still be trapped in the rubble can be rescued. The 41-year-old man accused of fatally stabbing his wife and injuring his 2 children at Matafin in Nelspruit, Mpumalanga, has terminated the services of the state-sponsored legal representative. A private lawyer has indicated that he will represent the accused pro bono. Initially, the accused was charged with the murder of his wife and 2 counts of attempted murder. One of the injured children died on Sunday, and another charge of murder will be added to his charge sheet. He appeared in the Nelspruit Magistrates Court, where the matter was postponed for consultation with his new lawyer. Nkatoko Mkhatshwa says he will consult his clients and prepare for a formal bail application.
The confusion was surrounding to, I think the client did not have an understanding of a matter being taken on a pro bono basis. We had to explain to clients, he assumed that, because he was no longer using legal aid, he would then have to pay fees. So he needed clarity in that regard. And we gave him clarity that we were taking this matter on because of the interest in the matter. That was the only issue with regards to an attorney. At this particular juncture, I'm consulting with him tomorrow at the prison. I'll take it from there. I cannot preempt anything.
And Hong Kong's appeals court has approved the formal banning of a protest song called Glory to Hong Kong that was previously used as a rallying call by pro-democracy campaigners. The BBC's Michael Bristow has more.
Last year, the Territory's government applied for an injunction against Glory to Hong Kong. It was rejected, but now that decision has been overturned and the protest anthem has been banned. The song was already in effect illegal to play, with the government using other rules and laws to stop people hearing it. This latest ruling simply formalises those restrictions. To ban a piece of music shows the lengths the authorities are prepared to go to reshape how people think in Hong Kong.
The top story at 4 o'clock, the African Congress for Transformation has made Section 19 of the Constitution the core of its arguments before the Constitutional Court. For SAFM News,
and coming up in your sports, the Sauer van Dijk admits that it will be difficult for Jaguars to defend the TNL title, and David's raring to go for Stormers. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Smith Street in Braamfontein is closed at the M1 highway. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a lost load reported just before Buccleuch interchange, and Pretoria Main Road in Marlborough North is closed between Lee Street and Marlborough Drive. In KZN, Bayhead Road westbound has a truck crash reported just before South Coast Road. The N2 southbound has a crash reported after Mgeni Road, and the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle after Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the M5 northbound is queuing towards the N1 Koeberg interchange. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards the M5 Koeberg interchange, and Mike Pina Boulevard northbound in Bellville is slow moving at Frans Conradi Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Hi guys, your favorite mom vlogger here, talking all things family entertainment with Deal or No Deal now on SABC2 weekdays at 6:30 p.m. Umalume is trying to make it onto the show and have his life changed quick. Amanda Malume. Mama and I are the #1 Mubango fans at 9 p.m. all week because the storylines stay hot. And my two little people can't wait for May when Raid the Cage kicks off with SABC2. See La Familia, keeping those family bonds strong. Until next time.
Which is the best way to reach success? Is it best to go alone so you can go fast? Or for many to go together so they can go far? What if you need to go fast and far? At RMB, we believe the best way to success doesn't make you choose when both are possible. When you need a thoughtful solution for financial complexity, there are only 3 letters you need to know. RMB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
My name is Njabulo Nzuza, the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs. During the successful voter registration weekend drives, we invited you, our valued clients, to come and collect your IDs. Thank you to the more than 65,000 citizens who came to our offices. We once again invite you to visit us during our extended office hours on Saturdays in May 2024 to come and collect your ID.
City Lads ladies can't wait to get out of the bottom half, and they understand that victory will elevate them from their current position. However, JVW ladies want a win to secure a better position in the top half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the queens of the beautiful game, City Lads Ladies FC versus JVW Ladies FC, on Sunday 12 May at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
It's been 30 years since we took our first steps towards a better life together.
We've been building homes, restoring dignity together. Millions now have access to education, water, electricity, telecommunications, and improved social security together. We are investing in jobs for our people, making sure no one is left behind. We are renewing our state institutions and turning the tide on corruption together. We are building a better Africa and a better world together.
So let's do more together. Vote ANC.
This political election broadcast was brought to you in terms of the CASA regulation governing the election period. The views expressed in this political election broadcast are those of the political party and not of the SABC.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
It is the National Pulse indeed, and perhaps you can tell me what's getting your pulses racing right now. What is it that really gets you thinking about many issues globally as well as within your own regions and ultimately even in your communities, right? I will take calls just now and lots more to talk about, including, by the way, talking about the elections. There's a fascinating campaign called We the Voters, but it's a board game that teaches you how to vote and certainly educates people on the intricacies of voting. So we'll chat to Tessa Dooms about that later on. But do you know that, we're 28 years into the adoption of the Constitution, as we discussed earlier on, but it's 30 years of democracy, and the 30-year review was presented today by Marapeni Ramakgopa, who's the Minister in the Presidency for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, and that was launched today. So let's find out what was said and try and understand when you bullet point some of the great successes of 30 years of democracy, what would they be, right? With me, political analyst Professor Lesiba Tefui. Good chatting to you. You're live on the National Pulse. Hi.
Greetings, Ashraf and the listeners.
Thank you. So first of all, an overview of the overview. What did you make of the report being delivered?
Look, there is no doubt that a lot has been done and achieved in the past 30 years. Very few would dispute that. But the anger, anxiety, and the frustrations that you pick up, and with a crescendo that is climaxing, is because of drifting away from the promises of yesteryear, while so much in terms of resources is available, while so much in terms of wastage is evident. That rampant corruption, that misuse and abuse of state resources. That is where the anger stems from.
Now, did that come through in the report? I mean, what were the key points then raised in the report?
Almost like if one wants to sound like a parrot, is what is already known. I mean, I'll talk about the key point that I align myself with. That when it comes to electricity, right, provision of water, there are more people today who have access to education, never mind the quality thereof, access to electricity, access to water. Those are the things that at least I'm willing to allude to. The negatives. Well, they also mentioned about health. The access to health. You can talk about that, but what is available is the infrastructure. Hollowed, empty structures, buildings, and clinics. So it is inconsequential to have structures like that when nothing is happening, when there are no medicines, where there is no personnel to man those clinics. And that, the service in that regard, comparatively speaking, is far worse than it was the case under the Homeland system, let alone apartheid.
So let me help you let me help us understand this. You're saying that the current situation with regard to hospitals and healthcare is actually worse than what existed in the Bantustans, in the homelands, in the period before 1990 or 94, right?
Yes. That's what I'm saying, and unashamedly. I know where people are likely to zero in. I'm not talking about the ideology. I'm talking about the systems. That systems worked then. You go to the hospital, you'll find nurses, you'll find personnel, you'll find the professionalism worthy of public servants, not what we have today. That's what I'm talking about. But it's too cheap to quickly say, oh, you think apartheid was better than what we have. That's not what I'm talking about. That's too cheap. That is too cheap for me. I don't want to stoop that low and engage at that level.
Okay. What then, did you observe what the minister delivered? I mean, and what did the minister say? Because I would think they would highlight successes, and you've mentioned some of them. And did they acknowledge the weaknesses?
Well look, the question of land reform, right? I think where I really give them kudos is resistance to go the route of Zimbabwe. Because I know there is a tremendous pressure from many political organizations and political charlatans and novices who think the Zimbabwe experience was the best and that's what we should embrace. But I'm glad the ANC has resisted that, and I'm glad there are those who appreciate that. They lacked political conviction. Section 25 as is allows for expropriation without compensation. Well, that's that. But then there is somewhere where I had a building safer communities. It's not me who's saying it. Go out there in the villages, in the townships, in the urban and peri-urbans, and listen to the people on the ground. Is it much safer today than yesterday? The answer is in the negative. What can we do? Something can be done. Let it be done. But the glossy papers, the good English that they speak, well and good, but it's not for the average man. It doesn't resonate with the existential experience of the wretched of the earth out there.
How would it be fair to say that in an election year, the minister dealing with monitoring would keep that election in mind, that it's like 3 weeks away? That means that you have to be careful what you say and how you say it?
Oh yes, my sympathies go to her, and indeed also goes to the ruling party, because they are caught up in a situation where they are in a beauty pageant. Listen to my English and look at my dress. I'm better than X or Z. And look at what I've done and achieved yesterday. While at the same time, most of them, even in the executive, are convinced that they have not done well. But how else can they put it? Because even a general in the battlefield, knowing that he's losing, he will never say to the troops, we are losing. You will always root for them to go on and on and on. The charge of the Light Brigade.
Is there a final point you wish to make on this issue?
No, there is a final play. Look, Ashraf, it is doable. We talk about an inclusive society. I'm saying, I'm saying, whites have economic capital. Blacks have political power. If the two were to find each other, we could make a dent and we could make a difference. And I conclude by saying, unless we work together, black and white will perish together as fools.
Well, your last line sounds like you could well do a good job as a head of a political party, but we leave it at that. Let's see how careful. Thanks for your time. Much appreciated. Certainly got us thinking about that in who's got what and how do we come together on that issue, right? Okay, I'll take your calls after this.
City Lads ladies can't wait to get out of the bottom half, and they understand that victory will elevate them from their current positions. However, JVW ladies want a win to secure a better position in the top half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the queens of the beautiful game, City Lads Ladies FC versus JVW Ladies FC, on Sunday 12 May at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
For the first time in 30 years, the ANC is set to lose its majority. Opposition parties have united as the multi-party charter for South Africa.
A strong democratic alliance with a proven track record
Can anchor a new government that serves the people.
But a new government that works is only possible if you vote for it. Let's unite and rescue South Africa. Vote DA.
This political party advertisement was paid for by the political party concerned. The views expressed in this advertisement are those of the political party and not those of the SABC.
Right, Miss South Africa 2024 entries are officially opened, and if you're ready to answer the call and become Miss South Africa 2024, well, your time is now. Step into your power and embrace your future. Now, by the way, the deadline is like today, okay? Not like today. It's 8 o'clock. 8 p.m. No, let me get that right. 8 May, which is now, today, but 6 p.m. So when this show ends, you need to fill in your application forms and send it off, right? Go to the website, missa.coza, missa.co.za, or you can also download the Miss South Africa app and enter now.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, I opened the show by asking you what unites South Africans and what divides South Africans. And we spoke about the Kathrada Foundation and Helen Zille on the DA advert. So we'll look at some varied comments on all those things, try and get through as much as we can. Let's start with the mastermind. Hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and your listeners.
Yeah, good talking to you. Right, what's your point?
My point, I just straight to the dividing us here in South Africa. You see, Ashraf, if we can look very close in the poverty is playing a huge major role for dividing us, because how can we live while others, you see, living a standard life that is better, and others maybe, you see, most of the, especially the black Africans, whom they are suffering most in the poverty. When we're talking about the poverty, Ashraf, most people who are in that era is the black people.
Okay, so you're saying poverty is number one that divides us, yeah?
Is that number one that divides us, yes. Secondly, to unite us, we lack by the leadership, especially in the governance. The currently party which are on the power is giving us a very complicated things. If you can look at Ashraf in terms of people around in the country, they are suffering in the higher standard of unemployment. That is the major problem. If the house doesn't have a person who can support that house, Ashraf is very tough. But if you see, then when they come in the TV, they showing and talking like everything is good. Ashraf, we here in South Africa, we say we are a lot of the foreign people. We're not to say we hate the people of other countries here in our
Okay, but can I leave it at that now, Mastermind? I think you've made your point, and we've heard that about what unites and what divides us. Thanks for that. We'll chat again soon. Loyiso, let's get your thoughts from KZN. Hello.
Yes, how are you?
I'm good indeed. Right, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
I am very, very worried about what Mrs. Zille had to say. It actually, my worst fears were realized. Those were that the DA was actually aware of how polarizing the advert was gonna be, but they considered that in their calculus that the end justifies the means, or rather the end is going to justify the means.
Yeah, but why would you be surprised at that? I mean, to be honest with you, exactly as she said, political parties go for shock treatment. They want shock tactics to try and evoke a response.
I consider that it could have happened that it was intentional on the DA side. It was not they did not misread the thing. Now, if this was intentional, now I am very worried about the DA itself as an organization, because what it means then, firstly, we are a very divided country, polarized, to use her words. For example, she said polarizing was politics 101.
Yeah. But basically saying you must make a choice, and that helps make a decision. Okay, I got that. Thank you for that call. Let's get further voice notes. In fact, one is about, will she apologize? Because I asked her to.
Yes, Ashraf. Let South Africans decide. Absolutely bonkers. I mean, Helen Zille will never apologize. It was just completely wrong of them. It's symbolic. She's talking about, it's not the real flag, but it's symbolic. So a symbol means much. I mean, what flag are they going to, or would they want to fly, should they ever come into power, which is not going to happen? Teresa, Cape Town.
Teresa in Cape Town. Let's get another on Helen Zille.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Glad to always with your team in studio. Sango JJ. Hi, Ashraf. Madam Zille, I think she's just joking. Does she mean that if DA comes to the power, people won't be hungry? Citizens won't be hungry. There will be electricity wire. The whole of South Africa or Western Cape.
Okay, that's it. There's another one about, I asked you what unites South Africans, what divides South Africans. Here's one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, speaking to Citizen. Our leaders, they dividing us, Ashraf, by quoting to apartheid when they done something wrong, reminding us what transpired at the past. Don't quote every time talking about what transpired. Dance things which the people of South Africa want now. Because when you always remind us about what apartheid did, you're just dividing the country. Make it sure that you deliver what the people gave you the mandate of. Thank you.
Okay, that's another one about, does that divide you? Here's the last one on adverts. Let me get that right.
People who get upset about this advert are childish. Very, very childish. Grow up. And I personally believe flags and anthems are for the feeble-minded. It's like little children who have a tree house, and it's like they put a little flag there, like, this is our tree house, yeah? It's so immature. As a human race, we're so far behind where we could be. Gary from Durban.
Okay, like playing in the treehouse. Okay, that's a nice symbol I've never thought about before. Right, let's move on to other things. I'll take your calls and play voice notes as well later on. And, perhaps if you wish to comment on Helen Zille or maybe the Kathrada Foundation and their points, I certainly would like to know what your opinions are on that. And the other question, what unites South Africans? What divides us? Right, let's talk about political parties taking the IEC to the Concord. We know that 3 political parties, the African Congress for Transformation, the Labour Party of South Africa, and the African Alliance of Social Democrats took the IEC to the Concord, to contest their exclusion from this election. Let's find out more about it with the SABC reporter who's been on at the court there. That's Zoleka Kodashi. Good chatting to you. You're live on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners.
Thank you. So you're the eyes and ears. What happened today?
Well, there have been a number of submissions made and arguments submitted before the Apex Court today in relation to why these 3 political parties could not comply with Section 27 of the Electoral Act. Now, you'll remember, Ashraf, that these parties didn't start here. They first relayed their concerns with the online portal of the Electoral Commission to the IEC itself. After receiving no joy, they then approached the Electoral Court. Now, you'll remember that the Electoral Court then dismissed the application in a majority judgment, and that is why they are before the court today. Now, there are a number of submissions that have been made before the Apex Court. One of them is that 35% of parties could not comply with Section 27 of the Electoral Act, and that relates to the submission of their candidates list, right? And so that requirement, or that March 8th deadline, is actually in accordance with Section 27 of the Electoral Act, and that is why these parties had to submit their candidates list by that deadline as set out by the IEC. And now they are before courts today on an urgent basis to seek the relief or urgent intervention of the Apex Court. Now, one of the submissions that were made is that because 35% of political parties could not submit their candidates list, this actually points, they allege that this points to the difficulties with the IEC's online portal. Another issue that was raised is the Section 19 rights as prescribed in the Constitution of political parties and of candidates, and that relates to being able to stand in an election and, if elected, to hold office. Now, part of the arguments that have been advanced by ACT in particular is that if they are disqualified on the basis of their claim that the IEC's portal was not functional or had allegedly had technical glitches, then they would be disenfranchised. And not only that, the voters that wanted to vote for these parties would also be disenfranchised, and therefore that would be an infringement of their Section 19 rights. They're also arguing that Section 190 of the Constitution essentially points to the mandate of the Electoral Commission, and that is to hold free and fair elections. And they argue that if they are not allowed to stand because they're disqualified on the basis of the failure to comply with Section 27 of the Electoral Act, then they would be prejudiced, and therefore the elections would not be free and fair. All
right, now we're almost on to news time, so we've got 15, 20 seconds. What happens next, very quickly?
Well, what happens next is we await the judgment or the order from the Apex Court. The various parties, the three parties, have set out their arguments, and now we are in the middle of hearing the response by the Electoral Commission, of course disputing the allegations or the arguments that have been made by the various parties. And what we expect now is that, of course, judgment will be reserved. But I do think that the Apex Court is cognizant of the importance of their judgment, and also because we're heading to elections in about 2-3 weeks' time, they will take that into consideration as they hand down their judgment.
Absolutely understandable. Thank you for your input. Certainly got us thinking about a range of issues and understanding what's going on at the Apex Court and the elections. Oleka Kodashi, the SABC News reporter there. Thank you for your time. Let's get to the news headlines now with Madupi.
Thanks, Ashraf, and good afternoon. In your headlines, officials at the scene of the collapsed building in George in the Western Cape say they are now preparing for the second phase of their operation, which is a search and recovery. Joburg City Power says it is going to need 23 million rand to fix the fire damage to its infrastructure on the M1 bridge, and thousands of Sudanese refugees have fled to UN camps in neighboring Ethiopia due to security problems in the Amhara region. Details of these and other stories coming up at 5.
SAFM. Guiding you.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M2 eastbound in central Johannesburg has a crash near Heidelberg Road exit. The M1 northbound in Sandton has a crash before Grayston Drive exit. The N3 southbound in Spruitvu has a crash before Leondale Road exit. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash after Olifantsfontein Road. All lanes are open, and the N1 southbound in Pretoria has a stationary vehicle after Riegel Avenue exit. In KZN, the M7 westbound has a crash at Recreation Road. That's causing delays. Bayhead Road westbound has a truck crash reported just before South Coast Road. The M7 has roadworks with traffic restrictions toward Bel Air Road, Wakesleigh Road Junction, and the N2 southbound has roadworks with traffic restrictions at Amanzim Torti reported. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is slow moving. That's towards Voortrekker Road. The N2 outbound is slow moving towards Spine Road. The M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and Christian Barnard Street outbound in the CBD is queuing towards the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Okay, somehow the Champions League semi will be discussed. Whether it's first or last, I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, we're going to be discussing that in the next bulletin. But this time around, we talk all things tennis. Andy Murray is set to return from injury at the Geneva Open this month after he was given a wild card for the clay court tournament in Switzerland, which begins on the 18th of May. The 36-year-old has been out since late March after rupturing his ankle ligaments at the Miami Open, and he opted not to have surgery on the injury to reduce recovery time, with hopes of playing at both the French Open and Wimbledon, as well as the Olympics in Paris this summer. Meanwhile, Rafa Nadal says that he's quite excited to play in Rome, even though he enters the Italian Open unseeded and ranked 305th in the world. He will open his campaign against Belgian qualifier Zizou Bergs. In netball, Proteas netball coach Jenny van Dijk reckons that it won't be easy for the Jaguars to defend their Telkom Netball League title, considering the competitiveness in the first half of the 2024 season. Jaguars have been surpassed by the Free State Crinums for the number one spot in the Division A-Log standings, with the Free State side having collected 11 points with 5 wins from 6 matches, while the Gauteng outfit are in the third place with 9 points. And Van Dijk says that it is good to see other teams such as the Crinums and the Fireballs raising their hands as title contenders, which speaks to the growth of the domestic league.
Yeah, I don't think this year is going to be easy for them to defend their title, but over the years, there was 1 or 2 occasions where they went through the tournament undefeated. What is good for netball and for them and their development is if it's not easy for them to get all the way to the top. I think, there are 2 teams that at the moment I feel are also well organized and running their systems and just performing well. and that is the Fireballs and the Crinums. So I think, the Jaguars can definitely play in the finals again and win, but it's definitely never a certainty that they will. There's other teams definitely knocking on the door as well.
In rugby, Angelo Davids is back to full speed and excited to get back out there as the Stormers takes on the Dragons in Wales on Friday. The electric winger scored 7 tries in all competitions last season, and he was part of the Stormers team that contested the 2022-23 Vodacom United Rugby Championship Grand Final at the DHL Stadium. Davids has played only 5 matches this season due to injury, and he's consequently relishing the opportunity to return as the Capetonians kickstart a 2-match tour to Europe and the URC this week. Ending things off in the business of sport, the Confederation of African Football has signed a deal with the University of Cape Town, and in terms of this agreement of between the two organizations, it will see the University of Cape Town provide courses and programs as an Africa Center of Education Excellence, which will be aimed at driving knowledge, creating capacity, and strengthening administrative skills amongst Africa's football stakeholders. So the program will include a mixture of online as well as on-site modules that will be held at the University of Cape Town Graduate School of Business. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour. For SAFM Sport, I'm Dumin Kapele.
Great.
The SABC Fortune Combo radio stations, which includes SAFM, Lotus FM, and Radio 2000, seek the services of a freelance graphic designer who will collaborate with cross-functional teams to create visually compelling assets that align with our receptive brand identities and resonate with our target audiences. The minimum requirements for the position are a bachelor's degree or diploma in graphic design, visual arts, or related field, 2 to 4 years proven experience as a graphic designer with a strong portfolio showcasing a range of design projects. All interested candidates should submit their CVs and portfolio of evidence to vacancy@safm.co.za. Application closed on the 26th of May 2024. For more detailed info, visit www.safm.co.za or follow us on our social media pages at SAFM Radio.
SAFM, leading the conversation. Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Our rugby correspondent Khotsoselo, the Blitzboks women, and their sensational win this past weekend in Singapore over the United States with the final play of the game, winning 14-12.
I think the most important thing is to see how far Renfren Dazel and his coaching team have come with this team. And, just going into this tournament, nobody saw them, pulling an upset and they got there. But that just also highlights that the importance of having faith in what you're doing and just backing the systems that are happening. I mean, over the years, we've known that the 7th setup has always been a well-oiled machine, and Renfren Dazel was part of that, golden era of South African sevens.
Top Sport on SAFM.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And the comments still coming in as people get a feel of the national pulse. Matthew in Mabopani saying, Ashraf, why is this flag matter blowing out of proportion? Helen is right. The intention was to remind people the country is on fire. For Mr. President to claim that it's tantamount to treason is irrational. Our flag doesn't belong to the ANC. Why is EFF and MK quiet about it? They know it's electioneering. It's so obvious. Anyway, anyone feeling offended by the advert wasn't going to vote for the DA, from Matthew. Okay, let's get to the markets now. Makwe Masilela is always with us, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Good chatting to you as always. Let's start with AB InBev, right? That's the alcohol company.
Yeah. And good afternoon to you and to the listeners. Remember, this is the largest brewer in the world. And Ashraf, the strength of the beer category, their diversified global footprint and the continued momentum of their mega brands delivered another decent quarter. We saw total revenue up 2.6% for the quarter, and approximately 70% of revenue is through their business-to-business digital platforms. But the total volumes were down 0.6%. And you look into their normalized EBITDA, which gives an indication of the overall financial performance, improved by 5.4%, and the underlying earnings per share up 15%. And the company is recovering from a boycott of its Bud Light brand, but its debt is loaded, and a PE of 21 is kind of demanding. But hey, traders reacted positively as the share price jumped almost 5%.
Okay, and then local and global markets?
Investors continue to look for firm evidence from the earnings recovery before taking this month's rally further. Some Fed officials said it's likely that the central bank will keep rates where they are for an extended period, and we have seen another sign of differences or divergence between the US and Europe, because Sweden's central bank cut their interest rates by 25 basis points, and this is for the first time in 8 years. And the guy said that there's a possibility of 2 more cuts should inflation continue to show some signs of easing. And today we got a reminder that Europe's biggest economy, which is Germany, is still struggling as their industrial production fell by 0.4%. And according to the IMF, the differences between the US-led Western and China-aligned economic blocs, that they can lead to the reversal of the global gains that we've seen so far, because we see the tension is starting again when it comes to trade, and investors need to be concerned that US consumers, which have embraced what they call buy now, pay later products, which allows them to pay for purchases in installments. But the problem here is it's not clear how many of these loans are out there, and we see oil prices are cooling off as the US crude inventories increased, indicating demand for oil is coming under pressure, and also a firmer dollar is not helping. Brent crude is down 0.3% at $82 a barrel, and there's a tug of war between a firmer US dollar and also safe haven demand when it comes to the yellow metal. And we see gold itself is flat today, trading at $2,314 US, and platinum is down 1.6% at $970. The Dow, just like S&P, they are flat. DAX up 0.3%, FTSE up 0.6%, CAC up 0.9%, and the JSE up 0.2%, with our resources down 0.5%, but our industrials are up 0.4%, and financials are up 0.2%, and the rand is now trading 1861 to the US dollar, 23.24 to the pound, and 20.01 to the euro.
And that's it for today. We'll chat tomorrow then, right? Thank you.
Pleasure.
Markwe Masilela. In fact, we're going to we'll chat to Tessa Dooms pretty shortly as part of the feature on the Election Watch about a fascinating game that helps you learn about all the issues around the elections. But we'll take your calls too after this.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
So many thoughts about what divides us and what unites us, but let's get further thoughts from, well, Ali's got an opinion in Mahikeng. Hello.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, hello. Okay.
With my 2 cents, I think pain, during the struggle times we were united because there was no bone thrown to us as Africa, as Black Africans.
Okay.
Now that the bone which has been thrown, looking, for instance, check into the issues of funerals where we come together, we celebrate, but when there's no such pain, we don't come together as families. On the issue of just in passing, Ashraf, on the issue of the flag was designed by a white man, the coat of arms by a white man, the Ikamanga, Ikamanga order of was a white man. Look, we are confused. It's a conglomeration of confusion of those who are greedy and selfish in the ANC.
Okay, so what do we deduce from all that?
We can talk of uniformity in diversity, not unity. We are not united.
Okay, got that. Okay, well, there you are. And that whole list of how that flag was compiled. Ali, thanks for that. Let's get to Ernest in Cape Town. Hi.
Good day. Hi. Man, Ashraf, to be honest with you, the flag means nothing to colored people. I don't know if you're aware of it.
Sorry, just repeat. I didn't hear that clearly. Just repeat that.
I said the flag or any symbol means nothing to colored people
Okay.
because we are marginalized in everything. Okay?
Okay.
And you can't tell me that we are not marginalized because we are. They've already cut us down to 5% of employment. Okay? And the thing is this, I don't vote for the DA, neither do I vote for the ANC. I don't even care about any of the symbols. It means nothing. I don't care about the rugby. I don't care about whatever they do. For as long as we are marginalized, we don't mean anything.
Okay, but let me hear you. I mean, I hear you. We don't have a long conversation about it, but I hear the points you bring about being marginalized. But don't you think those symbols are for all time?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. If you are marginalized, how can a symbol mean anything to you? How can it? Tell me.
Okay, so South Africa, does the country mean anything to you?
Did the flag of the previous South Africa, did it mean anything to the black people?
Well, it didn't. Okay, I get you.
No, precisely. It does not mean anything to colored people for as long as we are marginalized by black people and by white people. It doesn't mean anything.
Ernest, do you feel South African?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Because we are marginalized.
Okay.
We are pushed out of our own country.
Ernest, got that. We need to have a conversation about that, a long one, I'm sure. Thank you for that call. Right, let's see. There's another. In fact, there's a lot of voice notes that I can pick up, and there's a couple more about some of the things around the DA, and this was expected. But let's just see. I asked the question about what unites us. This may surprise you.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Zanele in Durban. I think it's a hypocritical mindset to think that the flag unite us. It unite us in which way? In any way. I think the only thing that unite us is the money. The people who have money, they just gather themselves and they left aside. They leave aside those who don't have money. People, the rich people, you'll find them on golf, you'll find them on rugby, you'll find them on cricket, simply because they have money. Blacks and white. That's uniting people. It's the money, what they afford. The person who can't even afford the bread, you won't find that person on the golf, you won't find that person on the rugby. The money uniting people. Thank you.
Money unites. Have you heard about people having family fights because they've got too much money? Just saying, here's the opposite of money. What about the poor?
Ashraf, the African continent is weak because Africa is poor. Look at Europe. Europe is strong. America is strong because they are rich. You see, in isiZulu, there is a saying that says, izwi lendoda engena mnotho or engena mali alizwakali, meaning to say the voice of a poor person or a poor man is not heard simply, but those with money, those with economic strength and military strength, if they speak, the world will jump. You see, so that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line, honestly.
Okay, well, that we were referring to the African Union conversation we had much earlier, which suggests that, in fact, Thabo Mbeki suggesting that the African Union is weak and can't get things done. And this was the response to that. I'll take more calls. There's lots of others wanting to talk. And I'm particularly interested in, two things: what unites us, what divides us as a people, and then any of the other big issues. And the fact that the Constitution was adopted 28 years ago today. We're 30 years into democracy. What else? Helen Zille, Kathrada Foundation, there's some comments about them too, and maybe some other further developments as the days go by. By the way, anybody who wants to comment on George and that and the collapsing of that building, I need to talk to you about it, especially if you live in that part of the Southern Cape, a beautiful part of the Cape. I want to talk to you. Tessa Dooms comes up next.
Rise to the occasion with Season 5 of The Taste Master SA, Tuesday evenings at 7 on SABC2. Follow the delicious journey as 14 of the country's best baking talents compete to impress the judges and claim the title. Only one will be crowned the Taste Master and win the grand prize valued at more than 400,000 Rand. That's Tuesdays at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
Support Slipper Day on the 31st of May and help children like me fighting life-threatening illnesses to reach their dreams. Visit reachfordream.org.za and make a difference. And don't forget to step into your slippers on Slipper Day. Reach for a Dream, inspiring hope. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 10th of May 2024 at the SABC Auditorium in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. The University of Pretoria will take on the University of Witwatersrand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. If you want to attend the debate, you can email info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Now, the apartheid government was so afraid of Beyers Naudé that for 7 years it banned him from being in a room with more than one other person. Did you know that? But in 1994, he voted in the country's first democratic election and worked hard to help previously disenfranchised people, well, do the very same. On May the 29th, the Kagiso Trust Remember Me initiative encourages South Africans to honour Naudé's memory by exercising the right he fought so hard to vote for, the right to vote. So, #Remember Me.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda. This Election Watch feature is brought to you by Kagiso Trust. Follow the #RememberMe initiative.
As part of this Remember Me initiative brought to you by Kagiso Trust, one is to get you to vote and to understand, remember those that have contributed as per the conversation we just mentioned now around Beyers Naudé and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, but also to just understand the fundamentals as you get into voting time, which comes up now soon because it's May 29th, right? So my attention was drawn to what I think is a fascinating campaign around getting you to vote by creating a board game. And don't we all love board games? Goodness, I need to play this board game. And I think it's called We the Voters, right? We the Voters. So the We the Voters board game. To tell us more about it is Tessa Dooms from the Rivonia Circle. She's Director of Programs there. And I would think that they're part of this whole plan to have created this board game, right? Tessa, good chatting to you. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I love board games. I mean, normally it's 30 seconds and a range of others, but you're going to direct me towards We the Voters.
Yeah, so We the Voters is our brand new board game with questions and provocations that are particular around the 2024 elections. It is a game that we hope people will play with their families, their friends. We've seen played in parks and communities as a way to break the ice when it comes to talking about voting on a voter-to-voter level. We do this We the Voters campaign, which also has, by the way, a documentary that we launched on Freedom Day that can also be a conversation starter. It's on our website, and a voter conversation toolkit. But the board game and all of these things are about facilitating voter-to-voter conversations, making it easier for us to talk about the elections, and importantly with the board game, learn about different party manifestos, learn about the process of the elections and the changes that have been made, and while doing that, having fun, getting votes, and hopefully just stimulating an excitement for this election, voter to voter.
Well, I mean, you just said what I was going to say. You want to teach them about the elections, but have fun, because the essence, if you don't have fun, it's not a board game. They're not going to play it, right? So talk to me about the elements of the actual board game. That means if we were playing today, what would I be doing?
So, firstly, you would create teams. So you have to have at least 4 people or more to play the game. The more your team, the better. And almost in 30-second style, moving on the board and progressing is around answering your team answering the question correctly. So in order to move, you need to be able to answer a question correctly. But where you land will have a number of votes attached to it. So let's say you answer the question, what date are we voting this year, 29th of May? You answer that correctly. You get to roll the dice. The dice says you roll 3 and you move 3. And if you land on 100, you're collecting 100 votes as a team. And so the aim is not to reach the end first, but the winners are the ones who collect the most votes. Because as we know, in an election, it's not who gets to the voting station first, but the party that gets the most votes.
Yeah, that
and
is true.
So as you're going around the board, there's different coded blocks as well. And so if you land on a blue block, you get to ask questions around manifestos. And so we've taken a sample of some of the parties and asked questions about their manifestos. If you land on a white block, you get to ask questions about the voting process itself. So questions around the 3 ballots, questions around what time voting starts and ends, all sorts of questions around the system. And all of this is in an attempt to get people to really just be provoked and think about the elections from a process and knowing who they're going to be voting for.
And anecdotally, has it worked? I mean, do you know? Can you tell us?
Absolutely, it's worked. It's been absolutely fun watching people play the game online. So we started sending out the boxes. We're sending out 500 boxes across the country. And I'm actually bringing a box to SAFM today. So you will have a box as well.
I need to play that game. Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's been absolutely great to see people playing, amongst themselves online. We've seen people playing it in parks. We've seen people hosting picnics to play the game. And just like listening to people trying to shout out answers or figure out if they got the answer right has been really, really cool for us. When we played it for the first time, we were surprised how much fun we were having with the game we made up.
Now, you mentioned board game and you mentioned the word online twice, I think it is, right? So is there a physical board game and an online version apart on the board game?
No, so there's only a physical board game, but we've asked people to post online when they're playing the game. So to post like a snippet of you playing the game or pictures of you playing the game online, because as part of our broader hashtag We the Voters, we really want to get some traction of voters really showing that they are having conversations amongst themselves.
There's always space. There's always space for the influencer, and you know that, right? There's always space for the influencer. So there we are.
Absolutely.
When it was conceptualized, I mean, was it something that's been done in other countries, or so you could draw on the experience, or did it just come up within Ravonia Circle and say we need to do this?
We literally just came up with it as Ravonia Circle. I don't think I've seen it done anywhere else, but we did speak to people in different countries who have gamified in different ways. So we've seen like online, almost Candy Crush type games, but those are very individual. So, online gaming is usually a very individual activity. And so we wanted to do something that brings people together. And board games, are collective efforts. And we believe, as is the slogan or the tagline of the board game, that voting is a group assignment. It's a group sport. And so we wanted to bring people together rather than people just learning on their phones.
Nice.
One of the other things we have is also a chatbot on our site where you can learn by yourself, where you can just talk to the bot questions on our site, and it's a chatbot, but it's individualized. And so this was our brainchild for how you bring people together to have it.
Sounds terrific. 2 things before we get to news time and I'll let you go. One is, is it so? You mentioned 500 boxes being dropped off around the country, but there's like 60 million people. How are you going to get to the whole country? And if others are interested now to want it, what do they do?
Well, firstly, we are giving away 50 boxes this week. So if anybody who's online listening would like a board game, please just go to our Facebook, social media pages, Twitter, Instagram, and just tag us and hashtag We the Voters and tell us who you want to play the game with so that we'll give away our 50 that we're giving away this week.
Okay, so on that one, tag SAFM Radio as well. We'll certainly share the two, and me too, absolutely. All right.
Absolutely.
And the second
we do have the broader campaign. So on our website, we also have the We the Voters documentary, and that is something that anyone can watch anywhere as a conversation starter as well. And so that's a lot broader in terms of its reach and appeal. We are going to be hosting some screenings in communities as well. But yeah, the board game is quite niche, but the documentary is something that everybody can access on YouTube, on our website, and use that as a conversation starter. It's 9 voters talking about their reasons for voting.
Okay.
And so it's not it's not a canvassing of certain parties. It's voters talking about voting.
Okay, to wrap up in 15 seconds, what happens about the relevance of the board game post May 29?
We're going to be doing an iteration for 2026 as well, but also in between, because the way the board game works in terms of content is on the cards. And so we'll be producing special editions of the board game in future with different kinds of cards for different reasons.
Makes absolute sense. Looking forward to actually being amongst we the voters. Thanks for your time, Tessa Dooms. Really excited about that board game, We the Voters. Have you played the game? Do you want to play it? Maybe Greg House and us and myself and the rest of us will give it a chance. But first things first, Greg's here with the news.
This Election Watch feature was brought to you by Kagiso Trust. Follow the hashtag Remember Me initiative.
Thank you, Ashraf. That board game definitely sounds intriguing. In this news update, second phase of George operation and millions to repair M1 fire damage. Good day to you. Officials at the scene of the collapsed building in George in the Western Cape say they're now preparing for the second phase of the operation, which is a search and recovery. The George Mayor, Leon van Wyk, says this operation would most likely begin tomorrow. It's been 48 hours since the incident happened on Monday. Rescuers worked throughout the night to find survivors. The last rescue they did was during the early hours of this morning. The death toll stands at 7, with 39 people still unaccounted for. 29 people were pulled alive from the rubble, 16 of whom are reportedly in a critical condition. City Power says it's going to need 23 million rand to fix the fire damage to its infrastructure on the M1 bridge. This follows a fire that burned about 500 metres of City Power cables as a result of cable theft. Parts of the Johannesburg inner city remain in darkness. City Power's Charles Luhani.
From City Power point of view, the overall work is going to cost 23 million. We had about 11 kV cables. We had telecommunications cables from that bridge. We had 88 XLPE. We also had 88 oil-filled cable. So we are replacing those by their own entirety.
In election news, the Legal Council for the African Congress for Transformation, ACT, has made Section 19 of the Constitution the core of its argument before the Constitutional Court, where it's seeking urgent relief regarding the May elections. The section deals with the political rights of parties and individuals and prescribes that every adult citizen has the right to vote in elections. The party is one of 3 seeking urgent relief from the courts after they failed to comply with the March 8th deadline to submit their candidate lists. ACT alleges it was unable to comply due to technical glitches with the IEC's online portal. Advocate Gregory Am represents ACT in this matter.
The Section 19 right that we ultimately will submit and hopefully persuade you that lies at the heart of the factual dispute is whether or not the right of my clients, and at the very least 121,000 supporters, will be denied an opportunity to vote for the party that they want to, and then the exclusion of 470 candidates of my clients who want to stand for my client on the ballot list, their exclusion. And ultimately whether the frustration of either of those rights which we submit is presently the status quo has the effect of rendering the elections unfree and unfair.
Residents of Middelova and KwaZulu-Natal say the provision of basic services such as water, housing and electricity should be enhanced after the elections. They were engaging with the ANC's Deputy Secretary-General, Nomvulo Mokonyane, during a door-to-door election campaign. Residents say they want their vote to bring change.
I am looking forward to voting so that governments can continue helping us by giving us water, RDP houses, as well as electricity. We are calling on governments to also fix our rural roads. We want tar on these rural roads. We need water. We want governments to end electricity outages. We also need job opportunities. In my family, there are about 5 adults who are unemployed.
Thousands of Sudanese refugees have fled to UN camps in neighbouring Ethiopia due to security problems in the Amhara region. The BBC's Kalkadanya Bettel reports.
According to the refugees who spoke to the BBC, the number of people who have fled the Komer and Olala camps could be as high as 7,000. Many had escaped war-ravaged Sudan last year seeking safety, but they have been faced with more violence across the border. For the past 9 months, Ethiopia's Amhara region has been blighted by armed conflicts. Local militias have been battling the army, prompting the authorities to declare a state of emergency and cut off the internet.
Top story. Officials at the scene of the collapsed building in George in the Western Cape say they're now preparing for the second phase of the operation, which is a search and recovery. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khoos.
In sports, Champions League takes centre stage tonight, and Ray Mali says one black player in a Proteas T20 World Cup squad is unacceptable. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M2 eastbound in central Johannesburg has a crash reported near Heidelberg Road exit. The M1 southbound in Braamfontein has roadworks with traffic restrictions near Smith Street reported, and the R21 northbound in Kempton Park has roadworks with lane closures between Pomona Road and the R23 Benona exit. In KZN, on the M7, there's a crash reported at Recreation Road. The N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle before the M13 Paradise Valley interchange, and the N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle after the M41 Gateway exit. In the Free State, on the R59 eastbound in Sasolburg, there's a crash reported after the Paardenburg Road exit, causing some serious delays. In Cape Town, Veltevreden Drive in Mitchells Plain is closed between the Cedar Avenue and Spine Road. Brighton Road in Kraaifontein slow moving at the N1 highway. Stellenbosch Arterial Road eastbound in Delft is queuing at Symphony Way, and Victoria Road outbound is slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
EFC is live this Thursday. 2 grappling wizards will battle it out for the vacant welterweight title at EFC 113 as Gelson Souza and Zakir Banat fight it out for championship glory. Plus, Faiz Jacobs is out for revenge against the great Sylvester Chifumbu for #1 contendership. EFC 113 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Mama Kitty, I heard Rand Water talking on the radio about how dangerous it is for people to encroach on their pipeline servitude.
Yes, those high-pressure Rand Water pipelines are under the ground distributing megaliters of water. When people build on top of the pipeline, Rand Water is unable to conduct maintenance on the pipeline, which has a negative impact on water provision. Pipelines can burst without warning. People could get seriously injured or worse.
Yes, people can die from a bursting pipe. That is why people need to understand that Rand Water servitude is where a Rand Water pipeline is located. If we build our houses or businesses on a Rand Water servitude, then we are encroaching on that servitude. They say if communities want to know whether they've encroached over servitudes, they should look for the Rand Water beacons.
The beacons indicate the presence of Rand Water pipelines under the ground. They're rectangular, made of concrete, are painted either white or blue, and have the Rand Water logo on them.
Let's take a walk around our area to see if there are any Rand Water beacons so that we can also tell the neighbors.
Rand Water, celebrating 120 years of existence and still finding new ways to provide clean, portable bulk water.
So, Miss South Africa 2024 entries are now officially open. In fact, they are going to close today. The entries close at 6 p.m. today, so go to the website ASAP, missa.coza, or download the Miss South Africa app and you can enter now.
Hello, South Africans. The African People's Convention is participating in the 2024 elections nationally and provincially. We urge all South Africans to vote APC for service delivery, to fight against corruption, hunger, poverty, and unemployment. The APC will abolish the corruption policy of denying employment to those who are 36 years and above. The APC will protect and guarantee their right to be employed in government. On the 29th of May 2024, vote APC. Vote for Themba to go back to Parliament.
This political election broadcast was brought to you in terms of the CASA regulation governing the election period. The views expressed in this political election broadcast are those of the political party and not of the SABC.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
It's the 28th anniversary of the adoption of our constitution. Did you know that? We'll talk about that to Ibrahim Fakir pretty shortly, responding to the Azapo position to say, that constitution has not delivered. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about how, when you're paying with your cards, nowadays everybody does that, credit cards, debit cards, well, the tap-to-pay functionality, it creates huge opportunities. I mean, don't I know that? I would think it may apply to every one of you. Earlier on, in terms of our theme of being in touch with the National Pulse, we spoke to Helen Zillow and we spoke to the Kathrada Foundation representative about that DA advert. So firstly, we thought we'll just play a clip back and you can listen to the whole podcast because it's been posted on our social media platforms. First of all, of Helen Zillow commenting.
Well, the Kathrada Foundation makes exactly the same point. They should be dismayed. And indeed, our flag is a symbol of hope. And they should wake up to the fact that the ANC has been systematically destroying it.
But
they make my point exactly.
But their dismay is the DA using the flag.
Excuse me. I mean, this is the first time they've ever expressed that kind of dismay. Where were they when Ace Magashule's supporters in the ANC were burning flags all over Mangaung? I didn't hear a word from them. And those were real flags. We're going
to talk to them in a moment. You should probably listen in. Just the last thing in 30 seconds. Is there anything now, with hindsight, that you'd wish to revisit and apologize over regarding the advert and the outcry?
Absolutely not. We're not apologizing for telling South Africans what is going to happen to them. In 10 years' time, those who take our message seriously will be very grateful for the fact that we did ring this bell and ring it with such urgency in 30 seconds shortly before a critical election.
Okay, and
South Africa should thank us for ringing this alarm bell, which they need to hear loud and clear.
Okay, no apology from the DA. What's the position of the Kathrada Foundation? Here's their director, Nishan Bolton.
I think we draw a distinction between an officially released advert of a political party and what people who might be members of the ANC or any other party does. I think there's a huge distinction between the two. The one is planned, the other might not be. The one is carefully thought out and people paid to in fact produce it, and the other one might well be a spontaneous thing. So there can't be equivalence between the two.
How then do you think, in terms of the rules of an engagement around an election, that you would advise, parties ultimately, they want your vote. Nishan, they want your vote, they want my vote, they want the vote, right? And they will try and do whatever they can to convince us to vote for them. But in terms of the rules of engagement, how far do they go? What advice can you give and what can you suggest to them?
Well, when we had Kathrada's remembrance event in March, we had the DA, ANC, IFP, and all of them there. All of them firstly agreed that they needed to be seen to be cooperating in public, that they needed to be putting forward their value proposition to people and to engage them around it. And the last thing that they needed to do was to play on the fears of people and deepen the disunity that elections normally do bring about. So I think for me, when I look at the advert, it says to me, don't trust these others. They burn the country to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a clue what it is that the DA will do in the end to prevent that. And what exactly its offering will be, other than to say don't trust the others because they will sell it.
Okay, and in 30... Right, that's the voice of Nishan Bolton. Let's move on to other issues then. The issue of South Africa's constitution, 28th anniversary of it being adopted today. So Azapo, we spoke to them earlier on, they certainly gave many reasons why they feel the constitution is not delivered, right? But what's the thoughts of political analyst Ibrahim Fakir? Ibrahim, appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So what do you think? Constitution, 28 years. upon reflection, you'd say what?
Upon reflection, I'd say it's a great thing. And I mean, I have sympathy for Azapo's view. I'm just trying to wonder why they're attributing that view to the Constitution itself. The Constitution is an inanimate object. The Constitution itself can't facilitate or deliver anything. That's the job of government. That's the approach of the political parties which sit in Parliament, those who sit in the executive, including those in opposition, because their whole point is to, and the whole rationale of their existence is to conduct, vigilant oversight over the executive, and that's exactly what the Constitution enables. So, yeah, the Constitution itself can't do anything. And I don't know why we expect that it must do so. I mean, the best the Constitution can do is that it becomes a facilitator. It is a guide. It is a set of rules which puts boundaries, and that's where the word bound comes from. It bounds certain kinds of behavior. It restrains executive arbitrary authority. It puts constraints on the ability to exercise power unfettered and in an abusive way. It's a book of rules. It's a procedural guide. It articulates some kind of societal vision. It describes state structure, and it describes processes by which decisions must be made and overseen. Now, to the extent that people say, oh no, it's not a good document, and I mean, they must tell us why it's not a good document. I've heard one argument which says, well, it's alien, it's Western. Well, I would want to know what is Western about putting restraints on power. Would you like someone to simply be able to have as much unfettered power as they would like? Do you not want to have any curbs on executive authority? Do you not want any separation of powers? There's nothing inherently Western about that.
Mm-hmm. I suppose, the Azapo person spoke earlier, they're looking at the issues of land issues and restitution, and the ultimate, wish list for them would be delivering to the masses a position of from poverty to wealth, and the suggestion is that constitution has not done that. Now, notwithstanding the point you made earlier, you may want to just pick up on that too.
Sure, but again, I mean, I have to reiterate that point because there's just no escaping the idea that the Constitution itself cannot do it. It is the agency of government. And what the Constitution does is that it balances citizen agency, the ability of you, me, and every listener and every other citizen to exercise the rights that they have, including socioeconomic rights, and it places the onus on government to engage in policy making which is redistributionary, and how it engages in policy which is redistributionary, whether it be land or whether it be about other intangible resources. The Constitution is not prescriptive. The Constitution is not saying you can't do X, Y, and Z. Why blame the inability of a government to have done three things? A, the reclamation of land, B, the restitution of land, and C, the redistribution of land. Why blame that on an inanimate object when that very object gives exactly those powers to retrieve, to restore, to reclaim, and to redistribute land? It gives that power to government. It gives that power to redistribute other resources to the government. You can't say that because the health system fails, because our education system fails, because of the other manifest failures in government, either to curb corruption, malfeasance, maladministration, that's the fault of the Constitution. That's the fault of those people who have agency that the Constitution has given them, that they have abused with impunity. So if there's no restraint on impunity, you can't blame that on the Constitution. The Constitution creates the framework in which that impunity can be curbed. That you don't exercise it, that's not the fault of the Constitution, that's the fault of the actors.
Which then brings me on to the next point. In terms of the actors that you talk about, 30 years of the actors, to what degree have they then used and utilized the Constitution to do just that, to answer the 3 points you made already, but beyond that, to ensure that South Africans by and large have a far, far better life than they would have imagined around the 90s?
So this is obviously a politically loaded question when we're saying, can we evaluate the governing parties? And I would say parties because we know in KZN, the provincial government, you first had the IFP. In the Western Cape, you had the NNP-ANC alliance. After that, it gave way to the DA, and now you've got the DA. So let's just say the respective governments, what have they done with the Constitution? And one would have to say, on balance, that the Constitution has been wisely used, perhaps not to its full effect. Perhaps we had those years in which we had massive impunity, in which we had a great amount of the exercise of authority without any accountability, power without responsibility. Notwithstanding all of that, we do have the largest welfare state in sub-Saharan Africa. We've got probably one of the largest social housing programs in the world. Some corruption, but compared to the scale, one would have to say it's not that bad. You have the rollout of massive social grants. You have free basic education. You have primary health care rollout. Of course, they all have their problems, and many of them deep-seated. We could have done much better with better oversight, with better accountability, with better operational efficiency. But notwithstanding all of that, that has happened. And I think that the current governing party nationally, this is probably the last election in which they can ride on that wave. Because look, let's just be frank. There are South Africans whose lives have changed literally in one generation. Partly facilitated by the rights which have been granted by the Constitution and the constraints which have been placed on the abuse of executive power. But in so doing, lives have changed, but this is, I think, the last time, because the thing South Africans are starting to think that this is the limit of what we can take. This is the limit of what you can deliver by doing what you've done. You now have to start using the Constitution to grow the economy and to redistribute more effectively and to ensure, most importantly, that the key drivers of transformation in the control of the state, education, health, welfare, jobs, those have to be used now within the ambit of the Constitution to advance the gains that we made, rather than rest on our laurels and say, we've given you this, so therefore give us the impunity to do other bad things.
And maybe that's a good way to end, to say on the 28th anniversary of the Constitution, Ibrahim Fakir, let's all take a closer look at the Constitution and what it really means and the vehicle that it provides us for in terms of living the life of our dreams in this country. Ibrahim Fakir, political analyst, much appreciate your time. Thank you.
The SABC Fortune Combo radio stations, which includes SAFM, Lotus FM, and Radio 2000, seek the services of a freelance graphic designer who will collaborate with cross-functional teams to create visually compelling assets that align with our receptive brand identities and resonate with our target audiences. The minimum requirements for the position are a bachelor's degree or diploma in graphic design, visual arts, or related field, 2 to 4 years proven experience as a graphic designer with a strong portfolio showcasing a range of design projects. All interested candidates should submit their CVs and portfolio of evidence to vacancy@safm.co.za. Application closed on the 26th of May 2024. For more detailed info, visit www.safm.co.za or follow us on our social media pages at SAFM Radio.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
All right, we're going to talk about debit card, credit card scamming, which is a huge problem. But this is no scam. You know, we spoke earlier on about that board game with Tessa Dooms. Well, it's genuinely no scam because, like, 15 minutes after talking to her, voila, she's here in studio, right? Well, this is like a personal hand delivery.
Yes, it is a hand delivery. Yeah. We're getting these boxes out, so you might as well get
one.
All
right, well, I'll tell you what, pass it on. Where's Temba? We need to make sure that we're all in picture, yeah? Right?
I'm here, Ashraf.
And I want to put it. I want to do that as well. I mean, just to make sure that it's on the screen too. Yeah. I just want to make sure that it's on the screen there. We, the voters, right? Okay. Okay, great stuff. Temba, you better check this out now.
No, I'm checking it out.
Temba better check it all out.
Next to her. Yeah.
I like that, yeah. Okay, we're going to take some nice pictures,
and
as we said, we'll be the influence as well for you. We'll post it up.
There we go.
All right, perfect. This is nice. Really like it. Very good. Tempa, any thoughts?
No. Beautiful stuff, man. It's all part of our voter education program. So it's really something great. And I'm glad that she has delivered on her promise more than anything.
Well, I've known about we the people, we the voters as well. So both of us, yeah.
Yeah, I got you even some T-shirts and stuff.
Much appreciated.
Enjoy.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Right, yeah. In fact, what we'll do, we'll take some pictures. I think we need to get some pictures as well, even though we'll continue with the show. So we'll get some pictures. But let's connect now on the issue of credit card, debit card scams.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga.
You talk about institutionalized hustle culture.
Yo, Bridget, it's a complicated conversation, right? Corporate in its nature is fast-paced. If you're working for a big cell phone giant, their job is to sell how many phones a day, right? So everybody must fall into that plan. So when they're saying to you, we are a high performance culture in this organization and everything is fast paced and we put in the work, we put in the extra time and whatnot, that's when it becomes institutionalized, right? So it's like you don't have an option here, to say, okay, me as part of the team, I will be the one who's relaxed and then you guys will be the one who pushed. No, everybody pushes in that organization.
That was a Spusi Nkosi. I never asked you, where do people find you?
People can go to my website, www.growthpeak.co.za.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
We'll post some pictures of that board game on the SFM Twitter account and Facebook shortly. Richard Frost is with me, however, head of consulting at cybersecurity at Armata. Richard, good chatting to you. Hi.
Good evening, Asha.
Thank you. Now, I tell you what, we're going to talk about, debit cards and credit cards and tapping. I must tell you, I'm very uncomfortable with tapping. So when I see the story about tapping that we're going to talk to you about, well, maybe there's a reason I should be uncomfortable. You tell me more.
Yeah, definitely. I think what started off as I noticed a video doing a rounds of a lady in a fuel station busy trying to buy something from a shop. And there was a gentleman walking around and waving his phone around, quite expressively and talking. And he actually managed to touch her card and actually do a debit transaction off her card while she was trying to pay for another transaction. And it started making me think, with all the fraud that we have in our country already with credit cards and credit card machines, what more can we as consumers do to protect ourselves to stop this kind of fraud from happening?
And what's the answer?
The simple answer for me has been disable the tap function on the card. It's an unnecessary feature. It does simplify things. It was great during COVID to avoid contactless, payments or to make contactless payments. But it's now being used in fraudulent ways. Guys have become more sophisticated. They're using applications on cell phones that actually draw money from the credit card. So your cell phone, in the same way as people would use like an iOCA device or something like that, they can actually run transactions off your card. And because the feature is always on the card, you can run that transaction without the user even noticing it.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you've half answered the question because I was going to say, when did tapping become vogue? And then you're saying, in fact, it was linked very much to COVID, so we don't have to punch in anything, right? So was that a South African thing or a global thing?
It's definitely something, South Africa is actually being quite intuitive in inventing things that make life easier and help with security. If you think of your old handheld credit card devices, South Africa, as much as they were probably the ones that invented it, they're probably the slowest in adopting it. I think it was used overseas more than it was in South Africa, and only after a while in America did they start bringing it to South Africa, where a waiter would bring the machine to the table when you were paying. The tapless, or the tap function and the contactless payments option probably became more relevant with COVID in the way of stopping the spread of germs and stuff. But it is something that's been around. There's always been a small amount that you could take off without using a PIN. And then I think with COVID, the restrictions became more relaxed, and it was quite a lot easier to take money off without needing a PIN or something, just because of the whole epidemic.
So now, up to now, if I swiped a card, they still needed my PIN. Some cards go automatically without swiping, without the PIN. But tapping definitely does not need a PIN, right? Which means that if somebody gets hold of my card, there's really no questions asked. There's just no debate, right?
I think what's quite scary is that banks are putting in limits as to how much you can tap without a PIN. A lot of the banks have actually turned around and said, we're not even going to support the tap function anymore because of this fraud. What's scary, though, is the machines that are being used to actually perpetrate this crime. It seems to bypass those limits. We've seen some transactions people have complained about, and we were getting this information from insurance companies, right, because there are ways of getting insurance against this kind of fraud. But they're saying people are claiming tens of thousands of rands from some kind of fraudulent tap. So that's completely bypassing the actual security protocols that are in place on the credit card already to limit that fraud.
Okay, I'll tell you what, you've got me thinking about going off tap, if you get my point.
Yeah, I think the digital wallet is probably the way to go because of the fact that it's got more controls in. And, I was saying earlier with the tap on the card, it's a continuous function, right? It's not something that you enable and disable. Whereas your digital wallet, your payment wallet, like Google wallets and the ones that you get on your iPhone, It basically is enabled for the purpose of the transaction. You tap it once and then it dies. It's not available again until you reactivate it.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we need to rethink the way we transact, and you've just given us a reminder to do just that. Richard Frost, good chatting to you, and thanks for the alert.
Absolute pleasure. Have a good evening.
Right, Richard Frost, Head of Consulting at Cyber Security at Armata. Well, there you are. Do you tap or don't you tap with your debit cards or your credit cards? I do, reluctantly. I may be even more reluctant to do so now in the light of what Richard Frost is suggesting. Let's get the news headlines now with Greg Host.
Quick look at those headlines. Ashraf, a suspect's been shot and killed while 4 others escaped during a shootout with members of the Johannesburg Metro Police in Marlborough, north of Johannesburg. Officials at the scene of the collapsed building in George in the Western Cape said they're now preparing for the second phase of the operation, which is a search and recovery. And a previously unknown group has claimed it was behind the murder of an Israeli-Canadian businessman in Egypt. More on that story and other news at 6 o'clock.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M2 eastbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Heidelberg Road exit. The N3 southbound in Alexandra has a crash before London Road. Summit Road westbound in Midrand has delays at Blue Hills. In Pretoria, the N4 eastbound has a crash before the N1 highway, and Mabopane Highway eastbound has a crash at Eskom Pahleli Drive. In KZN, the M7 is where a crash is reported at Recreation Road causing delays. The N3 eastbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle after the M41 Gateway exit, and the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle at Spaghetti Junction. In the Free State, on the R59 eastbound in Sasolburg, a crash reported after the Paardeberg Road exit causing delays. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Hartwell Drive southbound is slow moving towards Voortrekker Road. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
There is no way.
Alrighty.
Right, let's talk sport.
Yeah, we're talking.
Okay, now wait, hold it. I asked you about Champions League earlier on because I'm going to watch tonight. I can do a preview. What's it? Bayern Munich.
Today is Bayern Munich and Real
Madrid.
But yesterday, unfortunately for you, PSG are out.
Why for me? I'm not worried.
Yesterday, you did say you hope PSG would go through.
I was hoping they win, but it really doesn't bother me at the end of the day if Kylian Mbappe is not going to play in the finals.
At the end of the day, you said PSG is going to win. But anyway, moving right along, it's Champions League night today, and Real Madrid host Bayern Munich in the return leg of the second leg of the Champions League semi-final, and Los Blancos battled the Bavarians to a 2-2 draw in the first leg and unbeaten in their last 7 UCL meetings with Bayern. Madrid's target is achieving a 5th La Liga and Champions League double. Will they be able to march on to the final to face on Dortmund? Only time will tell. Still staying with football, Chippa United co-coach Thabo September has acknowledged the likelihood of the club potentially losing goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali at the end of the season. The Nigerian stopper was among the standout players at the Africa Cup of Nations in January and has been linked with the move.
Not the right word to use, but I think it's there's a high possibility of losing him. I don't think it's a fear. That's what the club is about. It's about giving players a platform, an opportunity, be it a player or coaches that have gone through this club. So it's the circle of it.
Then former Cricket South Africa President Raymond Mali says that he believes the state of cricket in the country is headed backwards. Mali has raised concerns with the current Proteas team headed to the USA and West Indies for next month's ICC T20 Men's World Cup, with former skipper Themba Bavuma left out and fast bowler Lungengidi placed on the standby list. Kagiso Rabada is the sole black player in the team, and Mali says that it's not acceptable.
I believe a lot has been achieved, but I believe we have gone backwards in terms of cricket. We have taken a step backwards instead of going forward. I cannot understand why we can't have a number of black players in the South African cricket team at this day and age. No. It's not acceptable.
Well, in rugby, Vodacom Bulls co-captain Juan Norquia says that they're expecting a massive battle from Glasgow Warriors when they meet at Loftus Versfeld in the United Rugby Championship this Saturday. With 3 rounds of the regular season remaining, the Bulls are in 4th place on the overall log with 51 points behind log leaders Glasgow and Leinster in 2nd. And the top 8 teams will qualify for the playoffs, with the top 4 crucially featuring at home in those quarterfinals. Then in tennis, Andy Murray set to return from injury at the Geneva Open this month after he was given a wild card for the clay court tournament in Switzerland, which begins on the 18th of May. The 36-year-old has been out since late March after rupturing his ankle ligament at the Miami Open, and he opted not to have surgery on the injury to reduce recovery time, with hopes of playing at both the French Open and Wimbledon, as well as the Olympics in Paris this summer. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. For SAFM Sport,
and who you want to see in the final tonight?
Hala Madrid.
Oh, okay. There we are. They won everything in their lives. The greatest. So yes, they are undoubtedly the greatest football club on earth.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
We'll see.
If you're really not on Real Madrid's side, there's something wrong with you.
Well, okay. Harry Kane. Okay, leave him alone. Real Madrid. That's it. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
City Lads ladies can't wait to get out of the bottom half, and they understand that victory will elevate them from their current position. However, JVW ladies want a win to secure a better position in the top half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the queens of the beautiful game, City Lads Ladies FC versus JVW Ladies FC, on Sunday 12 May at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. For the first time in 30 years, the ANC is set to lose its majority. Opposition parties have united as the multi-party charter for South Africa.
A strong democratic alliance with a proven track record
Can anchor a new government that serves the people.
But a new government that works is only possible if you vote for it. Let's unite and rescue South Africa. Vote DA.
This political party advertisement was paid for by the political party concerned. The views expressed in this advertisement are those of the political party and not those of the SABC.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 10th of May 2024 at the SABC Auditorium in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. The University of Pretoria will take on the University of Witwatersrand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. If you want to attend the debate, you can email info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
So the apartheid government was so afraid of Beyers Naudé that for 7 years it banned him from being in a room with more than one other person. Now, did you know that? But in 1994, he, Beyers Naudé, that is, voted in the country's first democratic election and worked hard to help previously disenfranchised people do the very same. Now, May 29th, the Kagiso Trust's Remember Me initiative encourages South Africans to honour Naudé's memory by exercising the right he fought so hard for, the right to vote. So, #Remember Me.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Jimmy Moyaha in the hot seat with the MoneyWeb market update. It's all yours. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to me, and good afternoon to the listeners. We've got quite the show lined up for today. We're going to be taking a look at the performance of gold and other commodities over the first quarter and what we can expect for the second half of the year the second quarter of the year as well as the second half of the year. We're going to take a look at that, see which commodities are worthwhile potentially investing in at this stage and what those investment opportunities might look like. Then we've also got a conversation with the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. They announced last week that they have entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Saudi Stock Exchange in Saudi Arabia. So we're going to speak to them, try and understand what that means for South Africa, what that means for our capital markets, and the services that the JSE provides to investors. And then because we have couple of features on a Wednesday, we've got our regular Warning Wednesday feature. We're going to speak to the FSCA around the latest round of warnings that they've issued, as well as their viewpoint on copy trading where it relates to investments and trading activities. They've got very clear views on how to regulate that, and they're going to share that with us a little later on. And we've also got a second feature on a Wednesday, that is our Executive Lounge feature, and I'm chatting to the Chief Financial Officer of Attraction to understand what she does when she's not being a very busy CFO. But before we get to that, the markets have been moving in a rather strange fashion. The Rand continues to try and show some signs of life. I don't know how much more of life we can expect from it, but Henku Creer has been keeping an eye on the markets for us, and he joins me now to do a quick summary of the market movements throughout the day. Good afternoon, Henku. Thanks as always for watching the markets for us. The Rand again below 18 Rand 60, not as strong as it was earlier in the week, but still showing signs of a positive day.
Yes, Jimmy, you're absolutely right, and a strange day indeed. Good evening to you and Ashraf and to me, and good evening to all the listeners. European stocks are quite mixed at this stage because the Dow Jones is up by 0.2%, but the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq trading weaker. The S&P 500 0.1% down and the Nasdaq 0.3% down at this stage. Then European stocks, they finished in the green. The FTSE 100 gained 0.5%. The DAX was 0.3% stronger, and the CAC 40 0.9% stronger. That's almost 1% today. And then the JSE's all-share index finished 0.3% stronger at 77,177 points. The industrial index as well as the financial index, those two both gained 0.4% today, but the resources index fell back a little bit and finished 0.2% weaker. AB InBev had a terrific day because it finished 5.2% stronger today. It was also BATS 1.5% up, and Richmond and First Rand each gained 1%. But Glencore and BHP each lost 1%. There were other companies that lost a bit more than that, like Exxaro, which finished 7.7% weaker today. Sibanye-Stillwater 3.8% down. Telkom and Mr. Price each lost 2%. There was also Barloworld, Implats and Capitec each finishing 1.5% weaker. Back to the good news, Sappi had a great day, 4.5% stronger. Pick n Pay gained 4.2%. Tungela, Supergroup and DRD Gold, they each finished 3% up, and Nedbank and Sun International each gained 2.5%. On the commodities market, the price of gold is $2,315 an ounce. Silver is sitting at $27.20. Platinum $973 and palladium $953 an ounce. The price of Brent crude currently trading at $83.30 a barrel, and the Rand lost a bit of its strength today, and it fell back to 18 Rand 62 to the US dollar, 23 Rand 25 to the pound, on the dot 20 Rand for a euro and 12 Rand 23 for an Australian dollar. And a Bitcoin is currently trading at $62,300, but that is still 1.2 million Rand. Jimmy, that's how the market's performed.
Thank you very much for that update, Henku. I'm going to be digging into that AB InBev update. They gave us a quarterly update for the first quarter, and I suppose the market really liked that because, as you mentioned, the share price was up about 5%. But we'll dig into that and other stories just after 6 p.m. For now, Ashraf, back to you and the team.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, thank you so much for that, Jimmy. Enjoy your show, and certainly looking forward to that. Right, let's get some calls. By the way, we're gonna get an update on that tragedy, really, in with regard to the building in the collapse site in Victoria Street in George in a few minutes' time. But in the meantime, there's lots of comments still around a whole range of issues, and we as the National Pulse must reflect exactly what it is you're thinking. So the DA advert, another opinion. Here's Vuyiswa. Hi, Vuyiswa.
Hi, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm very good. Parktown North, you're very close to where we are right now.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
You know what? The way I've been reflecting on this flag banning issue, and the way the arrogance that Zille and John Steenhuisen are portraying, they don't respect the South African people, neither the land, neither what we went through during apartheid and before that colonization, ever since white men landed in this land, in Africa. And you can't be talking as if you own, you own people, you own the land, and do as you wish. If they want votes, why can't they humble themselves? If what they are standing for, people understand it, they'll vote for them. But they cannot come and do what they've done at Christmas. Mandela and they are turning in their graves. This is an insult to the people of South Africa, and she doesn't want to apologize.
Well, I mean, she doesn't see that way. You see, as you've heard, I mean, she says, in fact, the absence of essential services and so many important issues that have collapsed. That would be the insult.
I'll tell you what, Ashraf. The DA has sold this country to their funders, that Germany, everybody else is fighting to revive their what you call it, Ottoman Empire, your Germany, or wherever, Europe and wherever. It's only us Africans that are not working towards that, to go back to our votes. I mean to say, people must keep this in mind. They are foreigners. They came here to steal. They're not even rich. That's what we need to repossess and need to tell them straight. We need to tell them the truth. They disregard the people of this country. They don't respect us from what we went through. And lastly, those Africans that are actually siding with this phenomena, it's because most of them did not lose their families. We lost our families here, but not a sacrifice. And the leaders compromised a lot to accommodate.
Okay, so bottom line, you're saying the advert is a no-no for you, yeah?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. They must humble themselves, apologize, because they are creating every day, the arrogance of white people. All
right, I got that. Look, I don't think they're going to apologize. They're not. They don't. It's not legal. It's not illegal, rather. It's morally wrong, maybe, according to many. I certainly don't like it at all. I don't like the burning of the flag, not at all. Just so that you know. Vuyiswa, thanks for that call. Colin in Cape Town talking about uniting and dividing. Go ahead. Hi, Colin.
Good evening. Good evening. Uniting. The only time we unite in this country is when we all at the stadium, 75,000, watching a rugby, Springboks playing somebody. And for 90 minutes, we all cheer, we all united, we all shake hands,
And then? Okay. And then you're gone and you're celebrating. I'm just trying to imagine Colin in Cape Town and where he is right now and what has actually happened there. There's quite a few voice notes we can play. And again, as always, there's lots to talk about. Here's one in response to the Kathrada Foundation.
Good afternoon. Regarding the Kada Foundation on the issue of the burning of the flag, they must just keep quiet because they do not care about this country. Whenever the Minister of Home Affairs tries to deal with the issue of undocumented foreign nationals, they intervene and take the minister to court. They just don't care, and this must not be an issue for them. Anonymous from Pretoria. Thank you.
Okay, Anonymous, point made. Here's another one about uniting.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, nothing unites South Africans. Nothing. We pretend to be united, but nothing unites us at all. No one can convince me otherwise. Nothing unite us as South Africans. The only thing that I would say happened is that black people in South Africa are tolerant. So you can even see in our past that we even forgive those who oppress us without them asking for forgiveness. So we are just people that are, I don't know, maybe people of a lesser God, I would think, maybe, because nothing, I don't know, really, but nothing unites us. Bob,
Okay.
Cape Town.
You're saying nothing unites us. In fact, I made the point in the opening of the show called That's My Point, and I said, amongst the things that unite us, the South African flag by and large unites us. It's a great sense of patriotism. Democracy must unite us. The fact that we can vote, our anger at load shedding, our anger at mediocrity and poor delivery and does unite us. Sporting success by and large does, and global success in entertainment and business surely it does. What about our anger at potholes? It unites us. It really does. And I just think somehow, no matter what we do, when we talk about saying I'm a South African, it should in some way unite you. But there's another message about the burning of the flag.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Hearers of the station. Ashraf, you see the story of the burning of the flag now is becoming a big matter now. But what I say, let's go back to our laws. If our laws talking about the burning of the flag, let the appropriate people take further step of it. If our laws do not say anything about burning of our flag, but we see that something must be done, let us amend our laws or keep quiet. Then let's go any further now, please. Tusi from Inant. Bye.
Okay, we'll talk about George after this.
Any person aggrieved by any political advertisement or political election broadcast that is broadcast by SAFM may lodge a complaint within 5 days from broadcast with the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA. To lodge your complaint, please contact ICASA's Compliance Department via telephone number on 012-568-3233. That's 012-568-3233. Or email broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. That's broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. Alternatively, complaintsccc@icasa.org.za. That's complaintsccc@icasa.org.za.
The final stretch comes with high emotions and pressure keeps mounting. RB Leipzig are gunning for maximum points on home soil, but their visitors from Bremen believe in the power of 3 points. They want victory for themselves. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch RB Leipzig versus Werder Bremen on Saturday 11 May at 3 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, we're going to cross over to Sagri Chatty to get an update on the collapsed building in Victoria Street in George and the recovery process there. But before we do that, let's get one more call on the same issue from Mashile in Bushbuck Ridge. Mashile, hi, you're live. Go ahead.
Hi, Ashraf. We just want to indicate that as much as we have got freedom of speech and the rest, but it is important that we get warned or advised that it is not correct or appropriate to make guesses what has caused the building to collapse. Because some of us that are actually technically qualified, we understand that there are many reasons why that building will collapse. And some of them is from the design, some from construction, some from inspectorate and all those. So people must refrain from making guesses, and we must allow those that are appointed appropriately, who are qualified to make the investigation and actually indicate exactly what is the source of the collapse.
So you think many people are taking guesses?
Yeah, well, I heard somebody else yesterday talking about steel coming from a particular company and having problems with the quality in the factories and the rest. You know, those kind of things will be misleading. And we need to allow the professionals that have been appointed to make the investigation and then advise the authorities what has happened. Because there are many reasons that can make a building to collapse.
Mashila, I think you're spot on. I think can't argue with that. Absolutely, 100%. Thanks for that. Thanks for that call. Let's in fact now go to George and get an update on what's happened there today with regard to the recovery and the rescue issues with Sagri Chetty, the SABC News reporter based in the Western Cape. Sagri, good chatting to you. Hi.
Good evening, Ashraf, and good evening to your listeners as well.
Thank you. Of course, the nation has been very connected to the goings on in George. Give us an update on what's the position now.
Well, about an hour ago, we just had a media briefing with the head of, the disaster management in the Western Cape, Mr. Colin Diner, and Anton Bedell. The Minister of Local Government was there, and they also had a professor who specializes in structural engineering. The news, I'm afraid, is not that good right now. The mood definitely changed after, that press conference. I think it's time that they are changing their strategy now to one of recovery from tomorrow, most probably. You see, it's been more than 48 hours that have passed now.
Okay.
And that first 3 days or 2 days they mentioned was critical in finding people. Things have become a lot difficult on the site. There are some safety issues, so work is a bit slow right now as well.
Well, I mean, that is sad news. So, in fact, what you're saying is there's a very, very, very small chance now of any survivors besides those that have been recovered already, right?
Well, yes, Mr. Diner said that himself.
Yeah.
He said there are a few bodies, he was being straightforward. He said there are a few bodies down there that it's hard to reach right now, but they will concentrate on that, at another time.
Yeah. What else then was part of the briefing? I mean, outside of that issue, because obviously there'd be issues about family support and forms of comfort and again the entire structure of the building. Did all that come up today?
Well, yes, that did come up. There is reiterations from all officials there that they actually doing their best to comfort the families rather. There are around over 100 family members that are camped out at the George municipality, which is very close to the actual site, So those people are there and they're providing food and water and counseling. People from the community have come in, to offer support and, all the officials as well. It's a very, very sad situation, and I'm sure now the mood for them as well has changed. With the news that's emerging that it's going to be changed to recovery eventually.
That's just such a horrible story, isn't it? I would take it. Are there faith-based groups there as part of the support of to families and friends of those who either have lost their lives or who have not yet been found?
Yes, Ashraf, definitely. There's a lot of church groups that have come in, and not only church groups, NGOs. They've just all banded together, and they are just providing support, not only to the families, mind you. There's over 200 emergency workers at the scene working. They've been working flat out since Monday into the night, all through the night. So they're providing support and food and beverages for them as well, So it's a whole community that's banded together just to help support each other.
And to get clarity, would they still work in the night now, even if they don't expect, recoveries?
Ashraf, that they actually will. I was just told that while work has slowed down due to safety concerns, they are still going to work. But because the structure itself is unstable, they're going to take it a bit slow. And they will also start, they were actually using other type of machinery when they were trying to rescue people. But now they're going to start with demolition operations, which I suspect, they'll use, I don't want to say because I don't know much about it, maybe explosives or other heavy machinery, just to move the concrete.
Yeah, sure. Not a good news story to end with, but Sagri, thank you for updating us, and hopefully there's some good news for some people overnight and tomorrow. Sagri Chetty, SABC News reporter, thank you for your time. That's it for the show. We'll do it again tomorrow. It's always the National Pulse. You can follow SAFM Radio on Facebook, on Twitter, or the X platform. Do the same with me, Ashraf Garda. And thanks to the team that puts us all together, from Phineas to Kamogelo, Tebogo, or Keys, as we know him, as Fusani, as well as Temba Dlamini. And thank you to you. We'll do it again tomorrow. Greg Host now in the news desk with the news at 6.
Thank you again, Ashraf.